Now, why would I want to pair to your phone?
Okay, we're muted because they don't hear us. I'm gonna have to get out of this mic now.
I don't know, Pam.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Brian. I'm helping Don out with the tech stuff tonight. We'll be starting at 7:05 this evening, and we usually go on to about 8:20 or so. And sit back and enjoy. If you have any questions, just try to reach me in the chat, and I'll help you out.
Hello, look at you all. Hi. Wave your hands like this if you can hear me. Look at that. All the little squares. There's movement in the squares tonight. All right. So we are here. My name is Don White. I'm glad that you're here. We're partnering today with one of my favorite places on earth, the Cave Run Storytelling Festival. So what's happening now is I'm going to give you a little layout of how the night's going to go, and then I'll introduce our host for this evening, and then I'll start my bit later. So um, in my shows, we're in those of you that are in Zoom here. There are people on YouTube and on Facebook. But those of you that are here with me today in the Zoom part of this, if you are in a quiet place, which means like no dogs barking, no fire engines going by, if you're in a relatively quiet place, we're going to try to unmute as many of you as we can. So hang off on this for a second, Brian. So we're gonna. So the way we'll. What I mean by this is that any sound that you make in Zoom is as loud as the performer. So you have to unmute people carefully, so they have to be pretty quiet. But Brian, our technician, is going to monitor you, so if you're unmuted, he'll help you. So the way you unmute is you go down here to this participants window. So this is not to unmute. This is just to raise your hand to let me know that you think you're in a quiet place. So if you click on this participants window, then a screen will come up, and down here in the bottom, there's a blue hand down the bottom there. And if you click on that, that's telling us that you think you're in a pretty quiet place and you can be unmuted. So there's a few already, and so I'd like to get some more because it allows me to hear some laughter and some interactions when we're performing. So there, Catherine, thank you. And let's see if we can get a few more that way. There you go. So I'd like to have like a half a dozen or more there, and so that it can be interactive. And don't worry if some noise happens, Brian will monitor it. He may mute you. Don't take it personal if he does. It just means that there's a fan kicked on in your room or something like that, and we're just gonna keep you quiet for a while. So there we go. There's another one. Let's try to get a couple more. Come on, all you people. Kate, come on. I know you're nice and quiet where you are. And Meg, come on. Let's join in here. And so once we get another couple going here, a couple of hands raised, what we're gonna do is we're gonna test it. So I'm going to count to 3 here. Let's do it now. I'm going to count to 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to count to 3. And when I get to 3, the 5 of you that are unmuted, I want you to laugh like I just said the funniest thing you ever heard in your life. Okay? So 1, 2, 3. Go ahead. Now, do you see what you're missing if you're not unmuted? That's right. So try to figure out the blue hand thing, and raise your hand up, and we'll unmute you through the night. And that way, it'll be interactive. So I'm going to introduce Beth Reynolds. She's representing the festival today, and she's going to talk a little bit about the festival. Then she'll bring me out. I'm going to do my bit till about 8:20, maybe something like that. We'll take a short break in the middle there, and then at 8:20 we're going to have an after party. And those of you that come all the time, it's always worth hanging around for the after parties. But I have to tell you people, and I mean this. This after party is going to be something special. I can't wait to get my part of this over so I can get to the after party. That's what I think. So in any case, please, those of you that are not muted, applaud for real, and the rest of you do it this way. Please welcome our friend Beth Reynolds.
Hi, Don, and thank you so much, everyone, for having us as a host tonight. My name is Beth Reynolds. I'm the director of the Cave Run Storytelling Festival. I'm sorry, I cannot be unmuted throughout because I have to work tonight. Daddy got called to work, so I have a helper. But no, I'm the director of the Cave Run Storytelling Festival, held annually in Moorhead, Kentucky. We have been so fortunate to have this festival in our area, growing incredibly from year to year for over 20 years. If you've not been to our festival, it's incredibly unique for so many ways. We host a public 2-day festival, outdoor outdoors under huge white tents, as hopefully some of you saw in the pictures before we started tonight. We have the flexibility to seat people under the tent right by the tellers who are performing, or outside of the tent so that they can still hear but enjoy the scenery around them. What's incredibly special about our location is it's nestled in the Daniel Boone National Forest in the Appalachian Mountains, and our tents sit right on the beach of Cave Run Lake. With the support of our community and sponsors, in addition to the 2-day festival open to the public, we are also able to offer 2 days in which local and even schools from across the state bring children to attend. We regularly host up to 3,000 students each year. And that's really special because we live in an area where some of those children may not be exposed regularly to such artistry and talent and culture. So it's amazing that they're able to come and spend time and meet the tellers and listen to them. Our festival typically has around 7 tellers every year, telling throughout the day, Friday and Saturday, with a big family telling night on Saturday night, but also our infamous ghost stories. And our tellers come from all over the nation, all over the world. They are award-winning tellers, and we're so honored that so many of them like and love and coming to our festival every year. Because of the location, a lot of our attendees have the unique experience to camp in the campgrounds. We've also had tellers come and camp as well while they're there. We have local vendors selling food throughout the whole festival. So it's just an incredibly special weekend. It's become a tradition to so many people who attend every year. It's the last weekend of September. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to cancel this year, but we are so excited for 2021 because we know we're gonna be back better than ever, back on the beach of Cave Run, back in Daniel Boone's forest. It's become a family reunion for me and so many that I know. I was fortunate to grow up going to the festival, and now I have my son who gets to attend every year. So it's just so special, and we hope that more of you guys will come and check us out. You can follow us at caverunstoryfest.org, or you can check us out on Facebook. Again, thank you so much for having us as a host tonight, and I welcome back Don White.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Here I am. So I'm going to play a song here for you, and we'll just get started. This is a song that I wrote because I have been married for 42 years. Congratulate me. Come on now. There you go. 42 years. This is a song that I wrote after my son went to college and my wife realized that there wasn't going to be any buffer between us anymore. It was a very difficult moment for Mrs. White, and she's so happy that I travel around the country to places like Kentucky and share our story with groups of strangers. Thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate those of you that drove a long distance. Rascal is the dog, he ain't too bright. Me and Rascal were sitting on the couch last night when my woman come in and she started to cry. She looked at us with such terror in her eyes. She said, I have raised these children for 18 years while you, Don White, have done nothing. And now they're growing up and moving out of here, and my big reward for all I've been through is this dog as dumb as mud. And you, yippee-yahoo. Well, Rascal looked at me in disbelief. He said, she can't be talking about you and me. She has got us to spend the rest of her whole life with. Would you please tell her how incredibly lucky she is? And I said, who is gonna love you any better than this? We'll wake you up every morning with big wet kisses when we hear the police sirens in your neighborhood. We throw our heads up in the air and we howl for you. All right, little squares, howl for me. Ow! That's cool. You gotta admit that's pretty cool. You know, I don't believe we had succeeded in convincing her of the outrageous good fortune that had befallen her. In fact, instead of looking happy as she could be, She looked a little bit, well, you know, suicidal to me. But hey, kids go to college, kids move away, but dogs and husbands, that's who stays. To you it seems like a terrible trick of fate, but me and Rascal don't see it that way. We're thinking, ain't we cuddly, ain't we cute? We're both real funny, we're both real true. There's another thing about us that's very cool. If you scratch us on our belly, our left leg moves. And you gotta admit that's cool. Ow! Ow! I think I'm scaring some of the squares. Okay, so maybe we ain't that smart. We're a couple of mutts with a lot of heart. But no one could ever love you better or give you more loyalty than this dog, as dumb as mud, than this dog, as dumb as mud, than this dog, as dumb as a mud, and me. How lucky can one girl be? She's got a dog like you and a man like me. We'll be together well into this next century. Put that knife down, baby. Ta-da!
Don,
And the
check
crowd
original
goes
sound.
wild. The crowd is going totally wild tonight. That's right. Square
Don,
number
check.
15,
Make sure you're on
they're
original
losing
sound.
it. Square number 15, they're losing it. I need to send a doctor over there. They're going wild over there. Now, I'm going to tell you a story now. This room that I'm in was my daughter's bedroom when she was living here, and she wasn't. Like when she said she was leaving home, you know, she got older, we were very tearful and goodbye, we're going to miss you so much. Her car that took her away from home didn't turn the corner in the street that I live on before I moved into this and made it my office. I'm just saying, okay? This became my office instantly. And so I want to tell you a little story about when she was a teenager. So I understand exhaustion. Exhaustion and I have a long-standing and deeply intimate knowledge of one another. He knows how to step into my life and make me miserable, and I know that he enjoys doing it. So over the past 25 years, I've built my career as a storyteller and a musician and a songwriter, while simultaneously working 3 jobs and staying up late. And my job that I had was up until just a few years ago, I was installing alarm systems in people's houses. That was my job. Because I live in a factory town near Boston, I've always told people that my job as an alarm installer was a public service. And what I meant by that was that really for 20 years in that field, I was just trying to keep my friends out of other people's houses. So, one night, I had worked 16 hours. And I dragged myself up the stairs here. And my bedroom, the bedroom where my wife, myself, and exhaustion sleep, is right next to this bedroom. And at that time, there was no door here. We couldn't afford to buy a big door. We just had a little flimsy door, and sound traveled in between the 2 rooms. So I could hear what was going on in here. I came home 11 o'clock. I had worked 16 hours. I was so tired. I was the kind of tired that hurt. I wanted to just sit in a puddle and cry. I was so tired. I was so tired. Exhaustion was beating me about the head and shoulders. And I just needed some sleep. I just needed like a morsel of sleep. Just like a minute of sleep. Just like, how much is that sleep, that right there? That's how much I needed. I just needed some sleep. But I couldn't get any sleep because my daughter was 15 years old and she was in this room on the phone with her best friend, and she was laughing and laughing and laughing. And now I'm in the laughter business. I mean, I occasionally get a few laughs. I understand it, but there's a lot of different sounds of laughter. There's like there's a bunch of different ones, but the sound of a teenager, 15 years old, laughing on the phone with her best friend is a sound that is not like any other sound on earth. And I'm so tired, I could cry. I could hear the 5 o'clock alarm setting on my alarm clock actually taunting me. I'm going to ring as soon as you close your eyes, big guy. And so I decide that I need to address the situation. So I start to conjure up my available dad identities and I bring them to the front of my mind to decide which one is the best that will serve the job best for me to just sort of end this situation so I can get some sleep. So the first dad incarnation that comes to mind is the blusterer, the guy that likes to yell. And so I bring him up in the front of my mind and I think if I give this job to him, what will happen? He'll come over here to the door and he will say, I am trying to get some sleep here. You don't care that I have to get up at 5 in the morning. Why should you? You get to sleep till noon. All you ever think about is yourself. It would never even occur to you that other people might be living in this house. And then I would raise my dictatorial muscle and point and say, hang up that phone right now. And then there would be quiet. Quiet anger, quiet resentment, and quiet plotting of revenge. You see, dad number one always gets much more quiet than he bargained for. That's because he's 100% bluster and 0% circumspection. He doesn't. He loses the battle. He wins the war at the expense of. He wins the battle at the expense of the war. He's a pawn of exhaustion, and he's destined to spend his waking hours in a vicious cycle of yelling and screaming and then having to apologize for it later, right? So I decide dad number one is not the man for this job. So then I bring up to the front of my mind dad number two. Dad number two is still a pawn of exhaustion, but he lacks the will to fight. Instead, he is a pleader. His method is to crawl out of bed, looking as pitiful as possible, and to speak in a defeated monotone. And if I conjured him up and brought him to the job, this is what would happen. He would go, Ariel, that's my daughter's name. Ariel, honey, I have to get up early. Please, if you love me, go downstairs and use the phone downstairs. So although he's sad and weak, this dad, if he gets the job done, will do so in a way that I won't have to apologize for later. So I decide dad number two is the man for this job. So to conjure up my defeated monotone, I'm rolling around in my mouth and I'm preparing to get out of bed and go address the situation when a hitherto unknown door in my mind opens up and out walks dad number three. He speaks. And this is what he says. Dad number one is mean and dad number two is sad. Because the problem here is not with the sounds in this house, it's with the way that you are choosing to hear them. And I think to myself, great. Dad number three is a philosopher. I say, is this going to take long? I really need to get some sleep here. He tells me to be quiet. And he says, let's take a look at what we actually have here. He goes, you are about to take action that will stop the sound of laughter in your house. Is this really what you want? Don't you know that the sounds in the house are part and parcel of the memories that are created there? And that quiet is what happens in the house when you are alone in it. Be careful how much of this you ask for or you wish for, Dawn White. That's right, my imaginary dads are on a first name basis with me. Be careful how much of this you wish for, Dawn White, how much quiet you wish for. And then he says it again. The problem in this house is not with the sounds, it's with the way that you are choosing to hear them. And then, man, I get it. All of a sudden, I have this complete understanding of what's happening. It's like this great big white light of understanding just washes over me. And I ask myself this question: what kind of a father can't go to sleep to the sound of his daughter laughing? And then instantly, it was as if the asking of the question initiated the metamorphosis. All of the sounds coming from my daughter's room were transformed. They became music. They became summer rain. I lie back and let them wash over me. All the pores in my body open up and I drink in the miracle of my daughter's teenage laughter. It is magic. It is giddy. It is a sound so complete that it is as if there is no distinction between my daughter, the young adult, and laughter itself. It is all one glorious symphony, light and lovely. And she sings me to sleep with laughter, and I dream. Oh man, I dream the dreams of a rested man. I dream of small birds on delicate breaths of wind and music wafting into the air. And when I awake in the morning, I am not just refreshed, I am reborn. I am a new human being. And I lie in that bed and I think about the house that I was raised in. And I wonder if I had the inclination or the wherewithal to count them. If my yelling memories, or if I had the wherewithal to count them, if my laughing memories would outnumber my yelling memories. I think about that for a minute. I climb out of bed. I walk to the doorway of my daughter's bedroom and I glance in upon her sleeping figure, beautiful and at peace. And I whistle a line from her favorite pop song and I put on my work boots and I begin my day. Woo! All right.
Hey, Don, double check the original sound.
Yeah, original sound's on. Does it sound wobbly, Brian?
Oh, the guitar was sounding a little.
No, it's good. Turn off original sound. Okay, so
Check it this time.
okay, thank you. I'm gonna tell. I don't tell stories too much about being on the road and traveling, but this is one that I want to tell you. So I perform a lot for people in recovery. You know, I haven't had a drink or anything since 1990. I don't want any applause or anything for that. I'm just saying it because it's important to this story here. So a big portion of the people that I perform for are people in recovery who are, you know, trying to stay sober and stay off of drugs and everything. And so I got a call from my agent. She said, this woman wants to hire you to play at her wedding. I say, okay. And there was a person from the recovery community. So a week later, the day before the show, I get another phone call from my agent and she says, it's still going to happen, but it's not going to be a wedding anymore. I go, why? She goes, nobody can find the husband. So I thought, why am I still doing this? And she said, so my daughter was doing this work for me, the agent. She goes, Dad, you won't believe this woman. I only talked to her on the phone for a half an hour, and she is unbelievable. This is going to be really special. It's not going to be a wedding. She's going to do it to a celebration of life. I go, okay. So I'm intrigued now. I'm really intrigued. So I go to South Boston. It's a little like a church basement, sober situation, no alcohol there, and I'm so interested to meet this woman. And I'm telling myself, nobody can hide their sadness in this situation, right? So when I meet her, I'm going to be able to tell that it's a facade, that she's just putting the best face on it that she can. So I meet her. I can't tell. She looks like the happiest person I ever met in my life. I couldn't understand it. And the first thing I noticed about her was she had these shoes on. The shoes were like red shoes with diamond sparkles all around them. And I took my head like a $10 shoe on and I set it next to her like, it looks like she could click her heels and go to Oz, you know? And I set my shoe next to hers and she took a camera out, snapped a picture of it. And then we talked for a while and I couldn't understand. I couldn't figure out. Like, she just looked like it was her wedding. She would look just as happy as if nothing had changed. And I was kind of charmed by her. And then when she walked away to go to the dance floor, there was a DJ going to play before me. She looked back at me and said, I have stage 4 breast cancer and it's in my bones. And And then she walked away and got on the dance floor. And I was I felt like someone had hit me in the head with a stick, kind of. And I had been in this situation before when I was with somebody for whom tomorrow is not likely, or is and they're like holy people. Like, and all of us talk about carpe diem and seizing the day. But when you're with somebody for whom tomorrow is a question mark, like, you can say it all you want, but when you're with somebody that's living that, when they hug you, you never had a hug like that. When she hugged me, I felt like there was nothing else happening on planet Earth except it was almost like we could just float up into the sky. And when they smile at you, you never seen a smile like that. It cracks the glass on your eyes. And when they dance, oh man, nobody dances like somebody for whom tomorrow is a gigantic question mark. So I just watched her on the dance floor. Like it was like a movie where all of a sudden there was only one light just shining on her and everybody else faded away and pulled apart. And she was just twirling as if she was in the moment, completely in the moment. And I wrote this song for her. It's called Last Dance. And she became my pal. She raised a bunch of money for her. She had a bunch of things that she was interested in, and she came to my concerts all the time. One time she came to my concert at Club Passim in Cambridge, right from the hospital. Like, she told the doctors, I'm going to go to this concert. And they're like, you should stay here. And she said, no, I'm going. And whenever she would go out, she would dress beautifully. Like this night, she had a beautiful multicolored purple scarf on. And the reason she did that, because even if she only had one good hour in the day, she wanted everybody to feel comfortable around her and not to worry about her. Her name was Joan Lynch, and I'm going to play this song for her just to keep her memory alive and to acknowledge how much, what an important person she was to me. You know, how she made me appreciate the moments. She told me she was stage 4. She walked onto the dance floor like it was the last dance of her life. I never saw a smile so bright, never got a hug so tight, never saw a dance hall light illuminate a soul so bright. These eyes have seen a lot of things, but they never saw angel wings till they watched a woman dancing like it was the last dance of her life. Like it was the last dance, like it was the last dance, like it was the last dance of her life. I know the people of the old cliches, how everybody ought to seize the day. They post them on their social page every hour of every day. But you gotta love the irony of sitting down at a computer screen, posting carpe diems day and night, while your life goes passing by. I never saw a smile so bright, I never got a hug so tight, I never saw a dance hall light illuminate a soul so bright. These eyes have seen a lot of things, but they never saw angel wings till they watched a woman dancing like it was the last dance of her life. Like it was the last dance, like it was the last dance, like it was the last dance of her life. Maybe tomorrow I'll try to write a song about this precious life, but tonight I'd rather live this life than describe it while it's passing by. She told me she was stage 4. She walked onto the dance floor. Her body started moving like this was the last dance of her life. I thought you said this guy was funny. What the heck was that? How was that funny storyteller you went to see? It was the worst funny storyteller I ever saw before. All right, now I'm going to tell you a story about my dad. My dad, Larry White, was a cigarette smoking, whiskey drinking, talk out the side of your mouth, gin rummy playing, World War II, 40 years as a crane man, manly man. If I ever brought him to a folk music concert, his molecules wouldn't hold together. And he never did one thing he was supposed to do in order to live a long time. He just ate red, bloody meat and smoked cigarettes with no filter on them and drank whiskey, Seagram 7 whiskey. And one of my last good conversations with him, he said to me, Donnie, that's the way he talked, Donnie, I found a new fried clam place. I'm like, Dad, what did your doctor say about eating fried food? He's like, my doctor? I'm like, yeah, the one that told me to stop eating fried food? I'm like, yeah, he died 20 years ago. He's like, you want to live to be 82? Come on, let's go get some fried clams. And that's my dad. My dad was that way. He was like a no-nonsense of World War II. They don't even make people like this anymore. And he was an observer of people. He was a bartender and a card player, and he observed people, and that's how he navigated the world. He would be quiet, and if he was with a bunch of people, he would let them talk. And if he noticed somebody was lying to someone else, he would zero in on that like a card player and look for a tell. And he would find a tell, like that person when he lies, they twitch a little or their voice changes, and he would take that tell and he'd say to me, Johnny, I'd take that tell and I'd put it in my ass pocket. I have to tell you, ass pocket is a 1940s term for database. We take this information, save it. 10 years later, he's doing business with you, and all of a sudden he sees you twitch or your voice changes. He's like, you're lying. And that's the way he navigated the world. He got whatever he wanted, and nobody knew how he got it. He just did it by paying attention and not forgetting what he saw. And that's the kind of guy he was. So this story takes place, I'm in my 40s, and I go to visit him at the house, right? The house I grew up in, I go to visit him. And the two things that you need to know about us, we're kind of Bostonian and Irish Boston people. And so for people in more gentle parts of the country, there's two things you need to know about us. One is if we're picking on you, that means we like you. And if we're quiet, you really should leave. And so with that all in mind, I go over there and I was picking on him. I was teasing him about his parenting style, right? And I thought it was within the realm of what we do, right? But I was wrong. It hurt his feelings. It made him mad. And he looked at me like this. I don't know, you watch your screens now if you can see. I'm going to like channel him. Like he looked at me like this. I'm telling you, it put a chill through me. He was a steel worker. His chest was this wide. He was stronger and tougher than me on multiple levels. Like, not just physically, but in every way possible. And I knew I was doomed, that he was going to educate me now, and there was going to be nothing I could do about it. Nothing. You know, I was just like a pantomime stuck inside, and I couldn't escape. And he said to me, did you have a bicycle when you were a kid? I go, you know I had a bicycle. You bought it for me. He goes, did you ride around the town on your bicycle with your friends? I go, as a matter of fact, I did. He goes, I'm happy for you. He goes, I'm happy for you. I always wanted a bicycle when I was a kid, but I couldn't have a bicycle. He goes, my father left us when I was 13 years old, and I was the oldest in the family. I had to go to work at 13 years old. I get up at 3 in the morning, go to Sabanti's bakery and make biscuits, and then go to school, and then go to the bakery after, and I would see other children riding on their bicycles and laughing and having fun. I never got to do that, but you had a bicycle, and you rode around on your bicycle with your friends. I am so happy for you. Right? So I go, okay. He says, have you ever been cold? I go, I see what you're doing. He goes, have you ever been cold? I go, no. He goes, I was cold. My mother used to put the Jell-O next to my bed at night because it was colder in my bedroom than it was in the icebox. He said, but now I've been thinking about it. There's always been oil in the furnace, and the radiator's always been warm, and you have never been cold 1 minute in your life. And you had a bicycle to ride around on with your friends. I am so happy for you. So I started out 5'8" in this thing, right? But now he's like surgically whittled me down to like, with his ass pocket database to like about the size of a Ken doll now, right? I was sitting at the kitchen table, but now I'm not tall enough to like, I'm just standing on the chair looking over the top like this, hoping that he has mercy on me, right? So he was in the living room. I was in the kitchen, and he was in the living room standing in the doorway, and now it got dark. The sun had gone down. So now the house was dark, and he came out and he walked past me in this dark kitchen, and he opens up the refrigerator into this dark room, right? And the refrigerator light like silhouette, shines on him. Like he looked like it like silhouetted him. He looked like a brickyard religious icon. You know what I mean? Like you could almost hear the refrigerator going, oh, like that, right? And he's got his back to me, and he's talking to the milk and the eggs, right? He's not looking at me. He's like, have you ever been hungry? I'm like, no, Dad, I've never been hungry. He goes, I was hungry. We ate mayonnaise sandwiches for days. He said, my mother used the same tea bag for 10 cups of tea. He goes, but you, never hungry, never cold, and you had a bicycle to ride around on with your friends. I am so happy for you. So now I'm the size of a mouse, kind of, right? And he turns around. He's going to finish me off. What do they say? How do they say that? You have to stick the landing. He was going to stick the landing. Like this, what he was doing was like a master class exercise in how to convince somebody never to talk to you the way they just talk to you again, right? Like that's what he was doing. And when he was walking toward me, I was thinking about how smart he was. Like he could have yelled at me, right? He could have called me names. I'm sure he was thinking of all kinds of names to call me, ungrateful, all of it, right? But he was too smart for that. Like if he yelled at me, I could have defended myself. When someone's yelling at you, you're not defending yourself against the point they're making. You're defending yourself against being yelled at. That's why it's an ineffective way to get somebody to change what they're doing. Because if someone's yelling at me, I'm not thinking about their point. I'm thinking, stop yelling at me. I can defend that. But he was too smart for that. He didn't yell at me. He just asked me questions. Have you ever had this? Oh, I'm happy for you. Did you ever have this? Oh, that's nice for you. And just surgically dismantled me till there was nothing left. And then he came over and he leaned over to me like this. And in my community, which is a pretty tough community here, a lot of, tough people here, when somebody leans over to you, someone tougher than you leans close to you like this, like right here like this, and then he said to me, look, he goes, look. And anytime that had happened to me before, generally that's something awful is going to happen after that. Like it's usually like what happens just before someone pummels you, right? So he comes up to me and he leans over like this and he goes, look, you can say whatever you want about how I raised you. I'm a full-grown man. I'm not afraid of you, and there's nothing you can say that's going to make me stop loving you. I went to war. I am so far past being concerned about what you say. But you need to know something, and I can't believe that you're 40 years old and I have to explain this to you, but I'm going to. He goes, when I was a kid, this life that you had, never hungry, never cold, had a bicycle to ride around on, didn't have to go to work when you were 13 years old, and never stop working till you retire at 65. This life that you had with joy and toys and warmth and food. He goes, not only did I not have it, but I'm telling you the truth, I didn't know it was possible. He goes, I wouldn't have been able to dream of this life that you are criticizing me for giving you. So at this point, you need a microscope to find me, right? I've been reduced to like a dust particle, and he had a package of ham and a package of cheese in his hands, and he walks over to me and he dropped it on the table. Like, he didn't slam it, that would have been too dramatic. It was just the right amount of volume. He just came over and dropped it and went bam like that, and he said, you look hungry, make a sandwich. And he walked in the living room and sat on his, like, the dad recliner, that thing, and he sat back like this with this big grin on his face, thinking to himself, that's how you do that. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is what's going to happen. I am going to sing a song here, and then we're going to take a break. It's not an intermission. It is, you can think of it as a time to pass the hat. So we are partnering with the Cave Run Storytelling Festival tonight, and after I'm done with this song, we'll put the screen up here. We'll show you how you can donate if you want to Venmo or PayPal, and we'll also put a mailing address. You could write a check. So I'm going to share the money with them, and so part of the money will go to them. Part of the money will go to what I'm referring to as the Dawn White Ramen Noodle Fund. But I want to let you know something, and I say this every show that I do. This is free. If you don't have any money, you are welcome here. I have spent more of my life without money than with it, and you don't have to feel uncomfortable. You don't have to spend money on this that you don't have. My heart is open for you. You are welcome, welcome, welcome. And after this is over, and when I'm doing regular concerts, and you want to come, if you don't have any money, you reach out to me. I will get you into the show. You never have to feel uncomfortable or unwelcome because you're out of work or anything around me. That's just not going to happen. So with that in mind, if you're doing okay and you want to help out the festival and the Ramen Noodle Fund, that'll work too. So I'm going to sing this song for you, then I'll come. We'll take like a 3-minute break, and then I'll come back and I'll play till about 8:20 or thereabouts, and at that point we will we'll have our after party story swap, which, oh man, I'm just saying, you don't have to stay for it. So you don't have to stay. You don't have to do anything. You see this thing right here? This is all it takes to get rid of me. You're just like, beep, and I'm gone, right? Like in a regular venue back in the old days, you had to put a jacket on and get up, and if everyone see you walk out, you don't have to do anything like that. It only takes this much action, like this, beep, and then I'm gone, right? But if you want to hang around, there's some really people that I really love going to show up at this thing, so we're going to have some good fun there, and we'll hang around after. So here we go. There is a little girl with pretty curls. She's about 5 years old, and she is waiting at the gate for her dad to come home. When he pulls around the corner in his shiny white car, she feels the magic light up in her heart. And he picks her up and he holds her. He says he missed her. He's glad that she is here. As the child lays her head on his shoulder, she whispers these words in his ear. Daddy, I know exactly what love is. Love is real, simple, and true. Love is this feeling my heart gets when I'm being held close by you. Now she is 20 and there's plenty of love everywhere. She's getting married, so her family and her friends are all there. They've gathered this morning to stand at her side as she waves goodbye to this time in her life. And they each take a moment to hold her and to tell her what she means to them. In a world that seems to keep getting colder, she has been blessed with a warm family and friends. She says, I know exactly what love is. Love is real simple and true. Love is this feeling my heart gets when I'm being held close by you. Now they are older and no one told her it got crazy like this. They're going to night school, they're working jobs too. They are raising 3 kids. The youngest one is crying with a bruise on her knee. She needs attention and she needs sympathy. And when she picks her up and she holds her, that old magic lights up in her heart. And as the child lays her head on her shoulder, she knows exactly why they're working so hard. Little girl, I know exactly what love is. Love is real simple and true. Love is this feeling my heart gets when I'm being held close by you. Now they are 60 and their history spans 40 odd years. They have buried their parents, now their grandkids are here. There's something about the way they look in each other's eyes that speaks softly about the meaning of life. And when he puts his arm out to hold her, it feels so familiar and warm. She thinks love is an expanding endeavor till your last breath, from the moment you're born. Now she is 80 and she hates being in this nursing home. Her man's been gone now for a long while and she feels so alone. She closes her eyes and she begins to pray that a little comfort might just come her way. And God lifts her up and he holds her. And she remembers this feeling she has. She is not a woman whose life is almost over. She's a little girl being held by her dad. And God, I know exactly what love is. Love is real simple and true. Love is this feeling my heart gets when I'm being held close by you. And God, love is real simple. Love is real simple. Love is real simple and true. All right, worst comedy show in the history of the world. There it is, right here, boys and girls. Thank you. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Again, if you can, if you're in a situation where you're not hurting for money, if you can donate and help out the festival and the Don White Noodle Fund, that'll be great. And we'll be back in 3 minutes.
He was better when I heard.
There we go. So, hello, welcome, everyone. It doesn't look like we lost anybody. I'm counting the squares here. It looks like we're doing okay. I stopped in to say hello to my friends on Facebook. I think we decided that, so this thing starts in Zoom and it's streamed to Facebook and YouTube. So we're trying to figure out where YouTube was, and we believe it's that way. So hello, everyone on YouTube over there. And Facebook, we believe, is over here. And hello to everyone on Facebook. Stop watching those cat videos. We're back to the show now. All right, so here's a story I want to tell you. And when I was in my 20s, early 20s, I moved to the state of Maine. So I'm an urban person. I live in the city, raised in the city. You know, I like cement and all that. I'm a big fan of cement and glass and, you know, theaters and stuff. So, but I moved to Maine when I was, I think, 20, and I moved to Maine because I wanted to become famous. It was the first in a series of really interesting business decisions on my part. That's right. It was like moving to the moon to become famous, right? So prior to moving there, my wife and I had hitchhiked for 3 years. Do you believe that? That you're looking at somebody that stuck his thumb out and hitchhiked for 3 years of his life and is still with the person he hitchhiked with now? This was, you know, I don't know how many years ago that was, 79, 8, in there someplace, right? So when I moved to Maine, I was in one of the most economically depressed parts of the country, right? There's no jobs really. It was way out in the woods, and I had no marketable skills. None. I could, I was an excellent hitchhiker, but nobody was buying. There was no job offers for somebody that was really good at hitchhiking at that point in my life. So the people who lived up there, they didn't like us. Do you know, like, they called us flatlanders? Have you ever heard that term before? Flatlanders. You know what it means? It means you ain't from here, and your people ain't from here, and you ain't never gonna be from here. That's what that means. And so they would just torture us, you know? At first I thought they hated us, but then I realized that we became entertainment for them, right? So I'm sure there was like a pool, you know, where all my neighbors like, who's got February 15th for the day that these two hippies freeze to death in that house over there, right? You know, like, that's what it seemed like to me. And my neighbor that lived across the street from me, his name was Wilbur. And Wilbur, called us flatlanders every time he could see us, but he was also nice to us. It's like I don't understand it, but it's common, you know, where they want to let you know that you're not from there and that you're not welcome, but they won't let you die, right? So like he ran a hose from his well underneath the street through the culvert so we could have running water in the house that I lived in. I rented a house in 1980, something like that, with no running water and a 2-seater outhouse. You know, my parents have had multiple reasons to be disappointed with me over the years, but the 2-seater outhouse was really another level for them. Like, they just kept shaking their head going, really? This is how you want to live your life? I'm like, Dad, I'm trying to get back to the earth. And my dad was like, I don't know what that means, but if it means being dirt poor the rest of your life, you're doing a heck of a job there, son. So Wilbur ran this hose there, and we could have running water when it wasn't frozen. And in Maine, I don't know, 3 weeks maybe? That might have been 3 weeks that year, 4 weeks, something like that. And so, but he just tortured us about not being from there. And then my son was born in the house. So my son was born in a house with no running water and a 2-seater outhouse, right, in Maine. So we had a midwife come and a technician, and they delivered him in the house, right? So he cost $400. $400, like for prenatal care, postnatal care, come to the house, deliver the baby, total price $400. I had like a Walmart baby. And we brought him over to Wilbur when he was born because we were cocky now. Well, like, Wilbur, say what you want about us, flatlanders, not from here, never going to be from here, but this kid was born in Maine. He was born in that house right there. This is a Mainer. And this is what he said to me. I want you to, if those of you that think you know what's funny, I want you to appreciate this, because this may be the funniest / meanest thing I ever heard in my life. I never forgot it. I never forgot it, but it is razor sharp funny. I said, Wilbur, this is a Mainer. And Wilbur said to me, well, if your cat crawls in the oven and has kittens, you don't call them biscuits now, do you? I'm like, Wilbur, that hurt. So I finally got a job. I had no marketable skills. I didn't have a car. I was hitchhiking back and forth to my job. And my job was, I was a custodian, a janitor in a nursing home. And it turned out to be, getting that job was one of the most important things that ever happened to me. So let me set the scene for you. I'm 20 years old. I have no marketable skills. I'm making the minimum wage. I have a baby. And I just could not project into the future how I was going to be able to take care of this baby and this family. I just couldn't see it. I didn't go to college. I had no trade. I didn't know anything. And when I woke up in the morning, as soon as I opened my eyes, my heart would start racing. And it wouldn't stop racing until I went to bed at night. And it was racing with the trepidation of the uncertainty of my future. I just could not envision how I was going to succeed in taking care of these people who were counting on me, right? And I lived with that from the time I opened my eyes to the time I closed them. And when I got this job, it was, looking back on it, it was so important, because I was at the beginning of my life trying to figure out what kind of an adult I was going to be, what kind of a man I was going to be, and I was surrounded every day by 100 people who were at the end of their story. Their story was ending, and I was starting my story at the beginning of it, and I was watching the end of 100 stories, and I was just absorbing it and drinking it in. If you lived this kind of life, this is what it looks like at the end. If you live this kind of life, this is what it looks like at the end. And it was just all going in there as I was trying to figure out what kind of man I was going to be. So in one corner of this nursing home, there was a man named Mr. Bishop. And he, to this day, is the saddest human being I've ever laid eyes on. I'm 63 years old. Just imagine how many sad people I've seen in my life. You know, thousands of them, right? He is by far the saddest. And the reason is interesting, because he wasn't evil. He didn't kill anybody. He just wasn't kind. He wasn't a kind person. And he was smart enough to know that the way he spent his life wasn't going to give him any peace in reflection now that it was over and he was only going from the bed to the ground. The fact that he was smart enough to understand that. He was just a regular guy. He went to work, he yelled at his wife, he had a few beers, he went hunting, he pushed people out of the way to get the job that he wanted. He wasn't evil, he just wasn't nice, he wasn't kind, he wasn't generous of spirit. And he knew that. That became a revelation to him in his nursing home bed where he died, right? That he knew that, and he was the saddest person because of his understanding of that. There was nothing he could do about it. He would have given me his whole life savings if I could have sent him backwards in time just to spend a month saying, I love you, let me help you, so that he could hold them in his hands at the end. It's too late for him, and I hated going in his room. It was like this dark cloud over him of just despair. He was, to me, like Shakespearean sad. He was the kind of sad like Macbeth was, tragic like that. On the other side of the building was Maddie Campbell. Maddie Campbell was 89 years old in 1979, so she was born in the 1890s, right? And in her room, the sun was always shining. At least it seemed that way to me. I thought she had like a southern exposure, but it wasn't that. It was coming from her. She just beamed light, because her life was decade upon decade of kindness and generosity of spirit. And the neighbors are sick, make some soup, put it on your buckboard, drive through the snow with your horse down a mile, make sure they have a warm fire. If they're sick, let's stay overnight and make sure they're okay. She just looked back and saw 80, 90 years of that, and she just glowed. She didn't need to go back and change a single thing. So here I am trying to figure out what kind of man I'm going to be, and I'm looking at these two end stories, and I'm like thinking, I don't know what it takes to be this and not that, but I got to figure this out. Like when I'm at the end, I want to be like Maddie. I want to be like Maddie Campbell. She's beaming, and she adopted me. She just, like, I would finish my work in 2 hours, janitor. and I would just pull a chair up beside her, and she would teach me these things from this amazing life that she had. And I would complain about my life, how hard my life was, which I feel bad about that now. Like, I was complaining about having to hitchhike down Route 220 in the snow to a woman who didn't see a combustion engine until she was 40, right? Who lived in one of the most hostile hunks of America in 1920, where your survival it depended on the generosity of neighbors and the availability of moose meat, right? And so, but I was complaining to her that I had to hitchhike and all that. But anyway, I did it, and she would just listen to me with her eyes closed. You know how the elderly will listen with their eyes closed like that and just drink it all in? And then I would complain. She'd open one eye like that, and she'd say, "Are you sure you're being honest with yourself?" And I would muster some sort of feeble response, and she would just go like this to me, like go think about that, right? I'm tired, come back tomorrow. And I loved her. I couldn't have loved this woman any more than I loved her. And she was funny. And, I would have loved her if she wasn't funny, but the fact that she was funny really helped in me loving her. And she said to me one time, "Here, take this piece of paper." I go, "What's this?" I open it up. She goes, "This is my epitaph." I opened it up, and it said, "Here lies Maddie. She had 1,000,000 ills. It wasn't those that killed her. It was the 500,000 pills." And I just adored her. And little by little, she just kept like gently feeding me these lessons from her life. The kind of wise that she was, the kind of wisdom that she had would have been hard to find in 1979, but it would be impossible now because it was born in a world that doesn't exist anymore. She became wise in 1910, 20, 30, 40 in Maine, in a world that doesn't exist anymore. And before I wrap the story up, I want to give you an example of how she taught me because it's so interesting. I always thought that it was one-sided, that I was the beneficiary of this relationship. But now that I'm 63, I think that it must have meant a lot to her to have somebody. Like, she didn't have any visitors. I was the only person that ever talked to her, aside from, "Here, take this medication." And I think it must have meant something to have somebody who wanted to know what you had to say when you had so much wisdom and nobody to hand it off to. And so I was complaining to her one day about having to borrow money from my parents. I had to borrow $400. I knew they'd give it to me. I had to pay my rent, and I was complaining, and this was what I was saying. I'm saying, "Maddie, I am so sick of having to ask people to help me. I just can't stand it anymore. I want to be able to take care of myself. I do not want to ask anybody else for help in my life." And she said to me, "It is your responsibility to let the people who love you help you." And I said, "No, it is not my responsibility, Maddie Campbell." And she said, "How do you feel when somebody you love is in trouble and you are able to help them?" I go, "That's different." I go, "I like that feeling." She goes, "Do you love it?" I go, "As a matter of fact, I do love it." She said, "Then why would you deny the people who love you this feeling that you love so much?" And man, I'm telling you, I was 20 years old, and I felt like I was talking to like a guru. Like I wouldn't have come across, like I could feel synapses in my mind being created to accommodate this new piece of information that I wouldn't have come across on my own till I was 50. I guarantee you. I would have never figured that out on my own. And she just spoon-fed it to me like that. And I just couldn't have loved her anymore. And little by little, the racing in my heart started to slow down. And I began to realize that, through her guidance and through her stories, I guess, through her telling me stories and helping me, that maybe even somebody like me might be able to manifest a life that they could be proud of. And it was a tremendous gift that she gave to me. And we were like, in geometry, how two lines cross like this and then they go to opposite ends of infinity, right? We were like that. We're just meeting at this one point, me on my way into being an adult and her on her way out. And it was just this little moment in time like that. But it changed the whole trajectory of my life. And then she died. And I was heartbroken, completely heartbroken. I knew that I was going to have to put on my big boy pants and do this stuff on my own. Nobody was going to be waving me off and tell me to go think about it no more. I had to do it myself. And that night I had a dream. And in that dream, Maddie was in the dream. And when I walked over to her, she had her hands cupped like this. And when I got close to her in this dream, she opened her hands up. And inside her hands were thousands of sparkling diamonds. And I knew it. I knew it in the dream. I knew it at 20 years old. I knew exactly what was happening, what was trying to be communicated. I just had a complete understanding of what was going on. Every moment in your life where you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because you want something back. Every moment in your life when you do the kind thing, it gets compressed into a diamond. And Maddie Campbell's last gift to me was to show me the thousands and thousands of sparkling moments of a life well lived at a time when that is the most important thing I needed to know. And she wasn't showing them to me to show me how many there were or anything. She was showing them to me so that I could remember what her face looked like at the end of her life as she gazed upon this life that had no regrets in it, that she didn't need to change a minute of. And it was a tremendous gift to me. I mean, it was a dream. It didn't really happen. Just let's try to remember that part. But and then she called me over and said something in my ear, which I'm going to say to you. I'm going to let her talk through me. She would be 130 years old now. So you would have no chance of knowing her. So it's like my gift is to let her speak through me and say this to you from Maddie Campbell from Washington, Maine. She said, in the end, the person with the most diamonds wins. Ta-da! All right, so I'm gonna play a song, and then we're gonna throw the Venmo stuff up there again. If you can donate, do that, and then we're gonna come back and have our song circle, and I'm pretty psyched about this. So thank you for coming. Let's take a minute and thank everybody that is involved with the Cave Run Storytelling Festival. Applaud, wave your hands, do something, make them feel some love, some cyber love. All right, so we'll do this one. Thank you. I appreciate you. I do these concerts every week. DonWhite.net is where you can find out about it. And this is a song that I wrote in that house there in Maine. I overheard a man complaining how his 401k was not performing quite how he would like it to. As he sipped his double latte and continued to complain, I thought about that day in 1982. We were living in the shack with the outhouse in the back. If I'm not mistaken, you were pregnant too. We thought it might be funny to count up all of our money and discuss all the investing we could do. We pulled our pockets inside out, pulled the cushions off the couch, stuck our fingers way down deep inside. And then we emptied out the pockets of the jackets in our closet, but not one single penny did we find. So after the realization our financial situation was not conducive to investment at this time, we decided to invest in what we've always done best. Danced around the kitchen for a while, we do the victory dance. When life is such a mess, we don't know what else to do. We do the victory dance. When being penniless became literal to me and you. Well, you could jump off of a building, take a bunch of pills, or you could walk around in a trance. But if you wake up in the morning on the right side of the lawn, go on, do the victory dance. I got fired from a job I have been working at for 20 years faithfully. Oh dear, oh God, oh my, how will I ever survive without a corporation taking care of me? I was so stressed out for weeks, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I didn't think that things would ever turn my way. And then a couple months went by, I began to realize, man, I really hated working at that place. So I started working for myself, improved my mental health. Now I'm happier than I've ever been before. Oh dear, oh my, oh God, I should have quit that stupid job 19 years ago. I do the victory dance when my life forces me to go out on my own. And then I just declare victory, and I march my army home. There are things you can't control, things you'll never know. Some things are always left to chance. If you're a clerk or you're a farmer, work from home in your pajamas. Go on, do the victory dance. Oh, you're all working in your pajamas. I know that. Jump off of a building to take a bunch of pills if you walk around in a trance. But if you wake up in the morning on the right side of the lawn, if your health is getting worse, but you can still flirt with the nurse. If you lose your money, but you still got your honey. If you lose your honey, but you still got some money. If the world has gone to hell and you cannot find Purell. If you're stuck in a tiny house with your children and your spouse. If they canceled all your shows and you got nowhere to go, now you're sitting in your room playing concerts on Zoom. What? And you wonder what it means to play songs to a computer screen. And across the top are little squares. And all your friends are trapped inside of there. And you say to your friends who are trapped in the squares, are you guys all okay in there? Square number 15 just held up a sign that said, help me. If you lose your money, you know, stuck in a square on a computer screen is just a metaphor for quarantine. If you lose your money, but you still got your honey. If you lose your honey, but you still got some money. If you find it hard to cope cause your kids are all on dope, don't surrender yet. Try not to forget in this game of life we're in. In this game of life we're in. In this game of life that we are in. If you don't die, you win. Ta-da! All right. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of my portion of this program. I thank you all so much for supporting live hologram music in this world these days. If you want to hang around for the story swap, I recommend it, but maybe you have a long ride home, something like that, I understand. But we'll be back in 3 minutes. If you, we'll put the information up so you can donate if you want to, by all means. And we'll see you in 3 minutes. All right. Well, look at you all. No, but not a single person left. Not from this part of it, anyway. Those of you over on Facebook and YouTube, generally the technicians, Brian or Brandon, will put the access information for Zoom over there if you want to come over here. But you can watch it just as well from over there. So, this is the after party, the legendary after party, which we do after every show. I invite people that I think are awesome, and we get to do the thing that we lost in this COVID thing, and that is hanging out with each other. It's loose and it's informal, and it's almost like we close the door at the gig and we let the audience stay in and hang out with us. And it's not as good as being with you. I keep telling Zoom, I keep writing letters to Zoom saying I want a hug button down here. But I got no hug button. But if there was one, I would climb right through here and hug every one of you, because I'm Greek and that's what we do. We like to have our hands on people. But anyway, so what we're gonna do is, I think there's seven people here. I'm gonna introduce you to them. Maybe you'll know some of them. Maybe you've seen them for the first time. I want to say to all my tellers that are here, you need to put your contact information in the chat, so that people can know where they can find you and all of that. I think Brandon and Brian found some of your websites and all that, but if you have a gig coming up or anything like that, post it in the chat and we'll direct people to it. So that's one of the things that we're doing here, is directing people to other art that they can find online. So I'm going to start by introducing Paul Strickland. If he's ready, I know he's here. I was looking so forward to working with this man. It would have been the first time we had worked together, but I had met him at the Utah Festival, and I want you to get to see his work. It's just fantastic. So, Brian, can you find Paul Strickland and spotlight him, and then everybody, let's give him a nice round of applause. Yay! Where are you, Paul? I know you're here somewhere. All right. Is he still here? There he is. I see him. DPS. There he is. He's cleverly disguised right on there.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Nice.
So, Paul, thank you so much for doing this. Are you coming from Ohio? Is that where you're at? Or
actually, no. I'm actually at my grandma-in-law's house on a lake in New Hampshire right now. So
really, why don't you
yeah.
drive down and see me? It's not that far. You have to stay 6 feet away, but I'll do it.
I
Yeah.
know.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here. I was so looking forward to working with you this year at the festival. Why don't you? Let me ask you, and I'll ask all the tellers. Like, I like to have the people a little bit unmuted, but if you don't like that, we can mute everybody. So, Paul, what's your preference?
No, you can have people unmuted. It's nice to hear if I'm failing or not.
Right. Brandon and Brian, if you hear any boos, mute those people right away. Mute them right away. Take care of my friend Paul. So, Paul, I love what you do. So, why don't you tell us a story, buddy?
Oh, thanks. This is so cool to be included in this group, and yeah, next year we'll get to do some telling in Kentucky down there.
Good.
Man, Don, it's so cool to hear what you do and to hear some of the love stories, specifically your love story. And it just made me think of one that I wanted to tell, a not so well-known love story about some pretty well-known people. Mel and Ima Odroit, everybody knows, are famous pig farmers.
Oh,
But people don't know what about them, that their love story is so peculiar and odd. You know, I mean, they were the Michael Jordan of pig farming lexicographers. They added so many phrases to the pig farming lexicon. But what people don't know, their farmhouse was actually right on top of the time zone line, which a lot of people thought was really weird. You know, it would be confusing, one room in a different time zone than another room, but it worked out great for them because Ima would be out tending to the pigs so late. She would come home late for the dinner that Mel had made for them. But it was fine because the kitchen was an hour behind the dining room, which meant the food stayed hot an extra 60 minutes. And so it worked out beautifully. Now, another thing people don't know about Mel and Ima Odroit, see, we say Mel and Ima Odroit, right? We say that all the time. But the fact is, Ima was the great pig farmer. Mel was just kind of bored. I mean, he kind of late in life sort of took up small time gambling a lot, which back then, especially in the 50s, that was a very weird thing to do because most states had banned dice or cards. So there were all these underground rural gambling rings that had cropped up around thumb wrestling or rock, paper, scissors, or the best one was the floating arm trick. That was Mel's game of choice. If you don't know what the floating arm trick is, it's a game that kids play a lot now where they'll stand in a small doorway and then a kid will press their arms out against the doorway for 60 seconds. And then they step out of the doorway and then release their arms, and then their arms rise against their will. They don't play it in Vegas anymore, but it is a well-known game among children. And back in the 50s, what would happen, a bunch of farmers would get together on a Saturday night, right? And one farmer would stand in a small door and press his arms out against the doorway for 60 seconds. One farmer, of course, would have to stand out back and watch out for, you know. And then there would be a bunch of farmers that were all betting quarters to see how high that farmer's arms would rise against his will before he regained control of his arms. I mean, Mel was really good at this game. You know, he had heavy hands. Also, he was just a really great gambler, you know? I mean, he was always walking around with his pockets just bulging full of those surreptitious, clandestine floating arm trick quarters, or as he often called it, my jingle bling. Now, the thing that you need to know about Ima Odroit as this brilliant pig farmer is that her only flaw, she had one flaw, and it was winters. Every winter, they lost 10% or more of their pigs. Every winter, either to frostbite or the pigs would throw themselves into a fire in an act of hammy-cammy, which was, that was a phrase that Mel coined that did not make the lexicon. But one way or the other, every winter, it was just a disaster, 10% or more of their pigs. And so Mel one year came up with a harebrained but beautiful idea. He said, why don't we just stack them? Stack the pigs one right on top of the next. Just stack them up like that. And that way the body heat of the pig beneath and above would keep the pig stack warm all winter long. It's kind of a beautiful idea, you know, and it actually worked. They took hundreds of pigs, put them in a field, and they stacked them. You can stack pigs 11 pigs high. If you put a 12th pig on there, you get a leaning tower of pigs, and that really upsets the neighbors. But they had hundreds of pigs stacked in stacks of 11 all over the fields, and it worked until spring sprung. When spring sprung, it came time to unstack all those pigs. Now, you would think with all of that floating arm trick that Mel Odroit had played in his life, you would think with all those years of playing floating arm trick, Mel would have realized you cannot wait an entire winter and then unstack the top 9 pigs off of those bottom 2 pigs and not expect those bottom 2 pigs to just float off into the sky, just like your arms do. Yeah, it was the horrible, horrible spring morning that Mel and Ima Odroit coined the terms piggyback ride and when pigs fly, and also, unfortunately, hog heaven. They just stood there watching their pigs just floating off into the sky. Those pigs were going, ay, 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 ay. That's the noise that pigs make when pigs fly. They just go, ay, 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 ay. They go oink on the ground. They go, ay, 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 ay when they fly. And of course they go, wee, wee, wee all the way home. Well, you know how the term piggy bank was coined? Mel went home. They tried everything. Mel went home and got all those floating arm trick quarters, brought them back and started feeding them to the bottom 2 pigs before they unstacked the other pigs. Feeding quarters to the pigs to try to weigh them down. But guess what, friends? Money can't solve all your problems. And so here's what happened. Ima, as was always the case, came up with a solution to the problem. She realized if you want to keep your pigs warm all winter long, all you got to do is put a pig in a blanket. She copyrighted the term, and Mel and Ima lived off the modest residuals of mediocre dinner parties for years and years and years and years to come. Sweet Ima Odroit died in 2003 suddenly. She was out, Mel was out watering the pigs, and he came inside to the house, and he found Ima dead on the kitchen floor. And so he dragged her body into the dining room, because in that time zone, Ima wasn't dead yet. Her eyes popped open, and the couple that had spent 4 decades living and working together, they got 46 extra minutes to say goodbye. Mel picked her up and took her out in the backyard on the right time zone, and they just laughed and they cried and they held hands while Mel sat on her the entire time, which I know sounds weird, but listen to me. This is the story that really taught me to never judge how anybody deals with death. Because when Ima Odroit's time came, when her time came 46 minutes later, Mel simply stood up and Ima floated off into the sky. And Mel said that's the last he ever saw of her. I know my death will not be nearly as magnificent as Ima Odroit's, but man, I hope that when I go, I will feel that loved.
That was excellent. Thank you so much. Good job. New Hampshire's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. New Hampshire is rocking it in the house tonight. So, Paul, I'm not sure whether we'll have time to go around a second time or not, but I want, if you don't mind hanging around, I think at least when it's all over, we'll probably just all chat. So I'd love to chat with you and hang around. Let's hear it again for Paul Strickland, everybody. Nice job. So much. All right. So now, because she came the furthest, she drove the furthest, and her internet is a little wonky. I'm going to introduce somebody that I'm just a gigantic fan of, and she's coming to us from Ireland tonight, and I couldn't be any happier today. When she said she was coming today, I was kind of giddy, actually. And so please welcome Claire Murphy. Hi, Claire. You need to unmute yourself.
I'm desperately trying. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Claire, do you want to have folks unmuted, or do you want them to be quiet?
Well, you say that they're, you really train your audiences that they're all really well educated, right? They know how to do that, so
I'm hoping.
I'll leave it up to them.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I know it's early in the morning, where you are, and I'm just so delighted that you're here. And are you well? Things are good with you?
Yeah, very well. We're all well here. I'm actually calling in from Bristol in England.
Oh.
I am living next door to Ireland, and yeah, we're as well as everyone is in these wonderful times. It's 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. The moon is shining in my window, and I couldn't resist the chance to just pop in and see everybody. And it's like you say, we don't get to do this. Hi, Ed. I see you waving. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Miss Sheila. Yeah, it's I just had to pop in. So I've got that late night voice because I've actually been asleep for a few hours, and I didn't even think about telling stories. I was like, I'm just gonna go see everyone, but I'll tell you a couple little short ones.
That'll be great. Thank you.
Well, lovely to hear you, Paul. Giggling away over here while I was muted. So it made me think of this story I heard, which I never tell at festivals, but seeing as it's the after party, I think I can, right? There were these two guys, two friends, and they'd been in the pub for quite a long time. And there'd been a few pints taken, and they were still in the pub. And finally, they wandered outside and they looked up at the sky, and one of them said, "Oh, look, it's the moon." And the other one said, "No, it's not the moon, it's the sun. The sun is rising." And so they started to argue about this. Was it the sun rising or the moon rising, over and over again? And finally there was a man walking up the street towards them, and they said, excuse me, is that the sun or is that the moon?" And the fella looked at them and looked up and said, "Oh, I wouldn't know, I'm not from round here." And I know that, I mean, usually my internet is works and I'm hardlined into the wall, but for whatever reason, for the last 24 hours, it's been cutting out. So my apologies if it doesn't work. I'll tell you another little short one, and then hand it back to you, because I know how horrible it is to watch glitchy stories of people freezing mid-story. So I'll tell you a little quick Hodja story. You know Hodja, right? You know Nasruddin the Hodja, the most foolish wise man and the most wise fool? We've got some wise fools on here tonight. There's thousands of stories about Hodja. I saw you look away and look back. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Thousands of stories about his wisdom and his foolishness. So this one day, a friend of his was on his way down to the market, and he was riding past the river, and he looked over and the Hodja was there, and he had his clothes that he was washing in the river, and then he watched as the Hodja picked up his cat, and he started dunking his cat in the river. And his friend called out, he said, Hodja, what are you doing? Don't you know cats hate water? You can't wash your cat." And the Hodja was washing away, and he said, "Excuse me, my friend, this is my cat. You will not tell me what to do with my cat." So Fred went on to the marketplace, and a couple of hours later he was on his way back, and he looked over, and there was the Hodja, sat by the river, his pile of clothes, and with his cat dead beside him. And the friend said, "Oh, Hodja, I tried to warn you. It wasn't the washing that killed him. It was the wringing him out."
Thank you so much, Claire. I'm a huge fan, and this is really good. I mean, I know it's late and everything. If you're still with us when we go through, I think we're just gonna open it up and let everybody chat and have a little time together, all the tellers. But if you're tired and all that stuff, I understand that. I'm so delighted that you took a nap and came to see us. Let's hear it one more time for Claire Murphy. Thank you. I wonder, where is Bill Harley ready? Where's that guy at? There he is. Hi, Bill. Can we spotlight Bill Harley right there?
Don, I'm wearing my baseball cap.
Why? Your team is terrible.
Yeah, well, I just would like to explain to everybody else. The reason I'm wearing this cap is because last year, Don White talked me into going in on a portion of the season tickets for the Red Sox. It's been a great season. I haven't seen him yet, and they're horrible.
Better off not seeing him, Bill.
Yeah.
So this is Bill Harley. He's a dear friend of mine. He lives here in Massachusetts. And Bill, things are well with you? Your family okay? Everything?
Yeah, I mean, we're crazy. You know, my son Noah, who's been living here, he said he was talking to a friend of his, and he said, his friend said, you know, I'm like, as I used to go through my day, I would always get upset about something that happened, and it was because all these other people. He said, now at home by myself, and I'm still upset, so I realize it wasn't them. It's always been me. So that's kind of what it's feeling like here, you know, when you're just by yourself. It's like, I'm going to take this hat off so you can shine there. Oh, so bright. Yeah, so we're fine. We're fine. It's been a wild. It's wild. Yeah.
I'm glad to see you. Would you do you have a story or a song or something?
I've got one quick story because of Claire, And then I thought I'd sing a song, which I don't sing very often, but it's really for my performer friends. So the rule about Nasruddin's stories is that you can't just tell one. You've got to tell more than one. And so I got to make sure I get the name of this instrument right. Okay. So Nasruddin got this instrument. I'm looking it up. What is it? You can don't worry, we're not over rehearsed here. Okay, because I hate that. Baglama, right? So it takes place in a baglama. So Nasruddin gets a baglama. It's a stringed instrument. Don't ask me too much about it because I actually kind of just looked it up. He goes in his room and his wife says, "What are you doing with the instrument?" He says, "I'm going to learn how to play this." She says, "People spend their whole lives playing that instrument. You can't learn." He said, "I'm going to learn." So he goes in, and one day he just starts going. All day. His wife says, "I got to give it a chance." The next day he goes in, "I'm going to practice again, 4 hours." Could be an old blues guy, or an old white guy. She says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm practicing." She gives him another day, all day long. Finally, she says, "What are you doing? You're just playing one note. All the other musicians, they play all these other notes." He says, "I know. They're all looking for the note. I found it." All right. So. I wrote this song shortly before things got incredibly weird, and I was kind of happy about it. I wrote it thinking about all my friends, some of whom are watching. One of the reasons we love festivals like Cave Run is we get to see each other, and we live in this little weird world that it's hard to explain to anybody else, the things that we experience. And so when we get together at festivals, it's a chance. So it's our tribe in a very deep sense. It's a tribe of people that they say some culture says home is where you don't have to explain yourself. And so when I'm with my performer friends, there's a lot. We immediately cut to this. It's like the joke, like 47. Ha ha ha! It's like that. So I wrote a song. Thinking about all my friends, and I haven't been able to perform it because I'm home, and this song is about not being home. I've known some cowboys, I've known some sailors who rode on the range, sailed on the sea. I've known you a long time, and it's got me thinking. There's cowboys, there's sailors, there's you, and there's me. All of these years, all of the miles, all of the places and things that we've seen, living a life that doesn't quite fit. There's cowboys, there's sailors, there's you, and there's me. The space in between will just drive you crazy. All that time waiting for the show to begin. You climb off the saddle, you walk down the gangplank, you say you're all finished, then you sign up again. Some give it up, they show common sense, say goodbye to the range and the road and the sea. But some just can't do it, they're all still out there. Those cowboys, those sailors, those yous and those me's. There's a song you hear that no one else hears. Someone calls to you It rings like a bell, 'cause out here it's simpler. It's just what's before you. The road and the range, the stories we tell. This bottle's finished, it's time to retire. We could open another, I'd like to, you know. Maybe I'm wiser, but maybe just older. That second bottle was a long time ago. So you change your strings, I'll set my sails. Sometime tomorrow we'll both hit the trail, 'cause the moon's shining bright on the range and the sea. For cowboys and sailors, for you and for me. The moon's shining bright on the range and the sea. For cowboys and sailors, for you and for me.
Nice. Nicely done, Bill.
Yeah. Nice to be here, Don. Nice to be here.
You know how I feel about you, man. You're the best. I'm so glad to see you. I'm glad to see you're doing well. You know, if you're not too tired or anything, hang around and we'll either do another story later or we'll just chat a little bit. Is that okay with you, Bill?
Yep.
All right. Take a nap if you need to. It's all right. So that was great, Bill. Thank you so much. So I'd like to bring Sheila out now. So she's cleverly disguised as SA here, Brian. So Sheila does so much for so many people, and I was so looking forward to working with her at the festival this year. I'm so glad that you're here, Sheila, and I'm glad that you're well. I mean, I keep an eye on you online, so I trust that you're doing okay. Yeah.
I am. I'm doing very well. I feel very good. Kind of makes me want to cry when I hear Bill Harley sing. Not because he's like Bill Lepp, and Bill has the actual voice, Bill Harley. But he makes me want to cry because I think good things. I didn't say that out loud, did I? Did I say that out loud?
No. And it wasn't recorded, and it won't live forever on the internet. Do you have something you'd like to share with us? I certainly
do. I just have a short story. This is one that I love to tell about, and it comes from Jim Hainan from a book that he called "The Man with the Cigar in His Hat." And it's about church. And for those of you who may have grown up in the church like I did, and if you go to churches, they sometimes get these gatherings they have together, and they have homecoming or the pastor's reception or something like that. And whenever they gather together, they always bring food. And if you're in the church that's known each other, they all know the right things to bring. So, they would look at you, they say, oh, you, Paul, you bring the coleslaw. And they would look over at Kevin Kling and then say, Kevin, if you'll bring the Jell-O mold made Lutheran style, please. And then they would look over at Don White and they would say, just bring some cups. And that everybody knows what people will bring and such like that. So in the boys' church, there was a woman that made a deep dish apple pie. Now, I ain't talking about, I'm talking about a deep dish apple pie where when you tasted that crust, it was like butter melting in your mouth. And it had those granny apples that were stewed with cinnamon and nutmeg. And what I'm talking about, Claire. I know you do. You've been over here to the South a little bit, so you know what I'm talking about. And then it would have in it, because it was a Southern kind of thing. So it would take the fork with the 4 tines and go north, south, east, and west. And that way it would bring the steam up, and you could smell it. And around the edges of it was the most perfectly aligned ridges all the way around. It was amazing. And before anybody could eat it, they would always say, oh, what a pretty pie. Well, the boys woke up that Saturday morning and they saw their mama was cooking, which meant that they immediately remembered that the next day was going to be food at church, which immediately reminded them of that apple pie, which immediately reminded them of that woman's apple orchard and the fact that they needed to go and pick apples from her orchard without her permission. So they ran on over there, they climbed in the trees, they stuffed their pockets full, and they climbed down the tree, and they were just about to leave scot-free, but they smelled it. It was apple pie. Well, they couldn't just leave. So they went over to the house. They dipped down underneath of her kitchen window. And they looked in, and she was just pulling out one of the pies. And she put it over on the rack. And they watched her. She took off her mitts and that she closed the door, and they saw that she'd already had another pan out there, and then she had taken the crust and already put it at the bottom. And they watched as she took a scooper and she scooped out them granny apples mixed up with the cinnamon and the nut. I know you're talking about, no, I'm talking about Claire. I know you do. I know you missed that. And poured that on in there. And they watched as she picked up the next crust and put it over top. And they watched as she picked up the fork and she went north, south, east, and west. And they watched as she opened her mouth. And they watched as she took out her false teeth and went around the edge of the apple pie, making perfectly aligned waves. And all the boys could say was, "That's a pretty pie."
Bravo, Sheila, bravo.
Don, it's so good to be here and so good to see my friends. Particularly seeing you, Claire, has been such a special treat to me. And Don, thank you for the work that you're doing. So many people are talking about what you've been given to performers, and I just am so grateful for that so much. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Well, thank you. So let me just say that to everybody involved in the festival and any other festivals. If you like the format that we're using here, just talk to me, reach out to me. We'll make it happen for you. I'll do one like this, and then we'll take the technicians, and you know, they will teach you how to do it however you want. You know, nobody should be left behind in this thing. This is the way it's going to be for a while. And if you're an artist or a festival or a promoter or whatever, just reach out to me. I want everybody. I don't want anybody to be left behind here in this thing here. So thank you, Sheila. One more time for Sheila, please. Just beautifully done. All right. So Kevin Kling from Minnesota, cleverly disguised as Kev K, but he had a much better name last time I worked with him. Do you remember what name you used that time, Kevin? It was like, oh, you have to unmute yourself, brother.
How's that?
Yeah, that's good. Do you remember the alias from last time? It was something.
Yeah, Barry the Hatchet.
Barry the Hatchet. Barry the Hatchet.
Yeah.
So Kevin is coming to us from Minnesota. He is, you know, just somebody I'm just glad to be on the same planet with in this world here. And we've had a chance to work together several times, and I'm so glad that he's doing okay and here with us tonight. So Kevin, you said, I think when I was talking to you earlier, that you had something new you wanted to try out. Is that still true now, or?
Yeah, it's just a story pieced together from a kid's play that I was working on. So, yeah.
Sure.
All right, I'll fire into it. And this story is from my life, but it ended up in this play about, and because when I was a kid, my sister used to have to walk me to school because my imagination tended to wander and I tended to follow it. There was a song I followed for 3 miles once, and when it was over, I didn't know where I was. And so my sister would walk me home. My brother used to walk me home, but one time we were passing a convenience store, and he said, "Let's go in." I said, "Steve, we're not supposed to." He said, "Yeah, I checked. It's okay." Now, you might have heard of George Washington, how he couldn't tell a lie. Well, my brother did not suffer from that condition. In fact, my dad used to say that telling a lie was his own way of releasing carbon dioxide. So I said, "No, Steve, we're not going in." He goes, "I'll buy you an icy." No, okay, my brother wouldn't lie, I bought an icy. So I go, okay. And we go in, I go right to the icy machine, and there's 2 flavors, right? Red and blue. But I have another flavor I made up called purple, but I add them together. So I fill up half the cup with the blue, and I'm filling up the red, and I go to turn it off, and it won't shut off. I couldn't get the thing to shut off. I go, "Steve, look, I can't get the shut off." He goes, "Go get the clerk, go get the clerk." So I go and get the clerk, and when we get back, My brothers filled up all the Coke cups and the hot dog boats and the coffee cups and even the ketchup containers. And when he got in filling everything up, he didn't know what to do. So he started filling himself up. His mouth was over the spigot. And the clerk goes, "Kid, what are you doing?" And my brother started to explain. But then he gets the biggest ice cream headache. He starts going, my brains, my brains, my brains, my brains. So my sister walked me home from school. And I remember one time we come over from school and she's got this letter. My mom's got a letter and she goes, "Stephen, do you know what this letter's about?" And he releases carbon dioxide. No. And she says, "It says here that you didn't finish one of your classes and you got to take summer school." And I can tell by my brother's look that summer and school should never be in the same sentence. And she says, "Well, we waited so long that there's only one class left and it's called Norwegian camp." Mom, I don't even know where Norwich is. She goes, "It's called Norway and you're going." When my mom says you're going, you are going. So we packed up all my brother's stuff. And by the time we got him to the bus, he'd already convinced himself he was going to learn about Vikings and pillaging and plundering. So he was happy by that. So we got him on the bus and the bus pulls away. And this is when I realized I had never spent all day without my brother. And I go, Dad, I want to go to Norway camp." My dad goes, "Kevin, no, here, I'll take you camping." So my dad put a blanket over the clothesline in our backyard, and we took all of our blankets and our pillows and we put them in there and we waited, and it got darker and darker and darker. And then my dad says, "Now what do we do?" And I go, "Dad, you got to tell a story." He goes, "You mean like a fairy tale?" I go, no, like a scary story, a ghost story. "Oh, and it's got to be true." He says, "It's got to be true." And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "All right." Just Kevin, we got this property cheap because it used to be an asylum for people with criminal aptitude. I did not know that. He goes, "Yeah." He says, "But it burnt down. But before it burnt down, the most famous of all the inmates escaped, a man called the Collector." "Why the Collector?" "Because he collected things." "What kind of things?" "Odds and ends." "People, odds and ends?" "No, like pieces of wire and 2x4s. No." He said, "But you can always hear him coming because you'll hear clump, clump, scratch, clump, clump, scratch." "Why clump, clump, scratch?" "Because of the radiator still chained to his eye." "His eye? No, Kevin, his eye. No, his leg. It was chained to his leg." But there was this family, happy-go-lucky family, mom, dad, kids, murdered. No, Kevin, no murdered. They moved away. But before they did, they found in their garage a cookbook. A cookbook? 30-minute meals for people with criminal aptitude. So we know he's around here somewhere. Oh, no. And there's one thing he can't stand. What's that? The smell of, the smell of bug spray. "But I put on bug spray." "You did?" "Yes, you watched me. You watched me put on bug spray." He says, "I didn't know. I didn't." "Well, what are we going to do?" He says, "There's one smell the Collector cannot stand, and that is, marshmallows. We have marshmallows." He said, "We have in the house, and chocolate and graham crackers." "Yeah, we have all that." And my dad made a fire, and then I went and got the marshmallows and graham crackers and chocolate, and we made what he called s'mores, which actually stands for Secret Methods of Repelling Evil. And you know what? They really work because we didn't see the Collector the entire night.
Bravo, 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 bravo. Kevin Kling, you are a treasure. I gotta tell you. Let's hear it one more time for Kevin Kling. Oh man. Thank you so much for participating in this. I was thinking about when we played at Cave Run, how much fun it was, and remember that we had a moment where everybody was like, the audience just kept watching how much we were enjoying all the other tellers. You remember that, Kevin and Claire? That we were like in that corner there, and the audience kept saying to us, we weren't even watching the stage. We were just watching you people enjoy each other so much. It was so wonderful. This is so great. So glad to see you. You're an hour earlier, so you have no reason to leave. You hang around. Claire's got reason.
No.
You can stay a little bit. All right.
I'm
So
here.
thank you, Kevin. I just love you. So Robert Jones, cleverly hiding over here. Reverend Robert Jones. Can is maybe he's napping, but maybe he could turn on his his camera. We could highlight him. There he is. This is
man.
Reverend Robert Jones from Detroit, Michigan. We're so glad to have him here with us tonight, Reverend Jones.
Oh man, it's good to be here and to see so many friends and people that I admire. I'll tell you, I'm in tall cotton tonight, hanging around with these folks. And Kevin, I saw Kevin not that long ago. Kevin had me come up to his neck of the woods in Minnesota. I think I was the only black guy on the way to Minnesota, because when I took the plane from Detroit, the young lady at the ticket counter told me, "I hope you have a good trip to Duluth." Duluth, yeah, Duluth, Minnesota. And so then I went and I was hanging out, and then I was hanging out with Kevin at another place, and we were in Georgia, and I remember it was cool but we were hanging out. You remember, Kevin? We were performing for a bunch of really older, predominantly African Americans, and I had been taking I had been taking these diuretics, and because I don't want to have stroke and high blood pressure and stuff, and just when we got to the end of the set, an older black gentleman in a wheelchair beckoned for me to come to him, and I really had to go, and it's like, young man, yes sir, I see you play the guitar. Yes sir, I want to tell you something. Yes sir, I used to play the guitar. That's really good. Thank you for telling me. Come here, young man. Folks used to say I sounded like BBK. That's really nice to know. And so one of the great things about being on Zoom is you can go to the bathroom whenever you want to, because you don't have to get waylaid by old men who have great wisdom. But I learned a lot from old men with great wisdom. And I want to do a little story and song, because my grandmother told me this about my great grandfather. His name was Will Cunningham, and Will lived a long time ago. I never really got to know him, but there's something about old men who endure and know what's important in life. Right now, in this country, we're fighting about differences instead of celebrating the things that we have in common. And I remember meeting another old man, a great old preacher by the name of Pastor Joseph Lowry, who was in town for the MLK Day. And the young man was telling him how much, we had not made progress. The 50th anniversary of the civil rights movement and all of these marches and all of these courageous people like John Lewis and Reverend King and all these other folks who had marched and Reverend Lowry was telling him how far we've come, and the young man said, Pastor Lowry, I got to tell you that, I respect what you did, but we still got a lot of problems in this country. We have unemployment, we have drug addiction, we certainly have police brutality, we have a poverty going on throughout the community, and he let him go on and on and on. And then Reverend Lowry looked at him and said, "Well, sir, I agree with you, but anybody who thinks that things now is the same as they was then wasn't around then." So this is for my great grandfather, because he was around then. His name was Will Cunningham. Connecticut County, Alabama, 1925. Will Cunningham rode into town to get his week's supplies. Now, Will was a black man who'd fought in World War I, and he'd faced the smoke and powder, but he never chose to run. He had a favorite scripture whenever times got mean. It was 2 Kings chapter 6 around verse 17. It had helped him back in France when he was far from home, saying, Lord, open up our eyes to see we do not stand alone. Cause he did not pick his battles and he never chose his friends. When he got up in the morning, didn't know how the day would end. But there were angels all around him and chariots on the wind. And he who stood with him was more than those who rode with him. Now Will was my great-grandfather, and he never learned to bow. When other black men would step aside, Will never figured how. And he worked for Paul Smack Binion, who was a hard and wealthy man, cause everywhere you were standing, you were on Mac Binion's land. Mac Binion was a white man, but all white men ain't the same. Some would curse you and abuse you and call you out your name. That's the kind Will met that morning when he stepped into the store. Just a ball of hate and evil and very little more. But he did not pick his battles and he never chose his friends. When he got up in the morning, didn't know how the day would end. But there are angels all around him and chariots on the wind. And those who stood with him were more than those who rode with him. Now when Will Cunningham met evil, he looked evil in the face. Evil says this is the kind of nigger you gotta put back in his place. So he slapped my great-grandfather to teach him by degrees, but Real answered him with a straight right hand that knocked evil to his knees. It was still Connecticut County in 1925, and you couldn't whoop a white man if you wanted to stay alive. So Will got back on that wagon and he headed out for home. He didn't want Henrietta and the babies to meet that storm alone. But he did not pick his battles and he never chose his friend. When he got up in the morning, didn't know how the day would end. But there were angels all around him and chariots on the wind. And those who stood with him were more than those who rode with him. Well, evil got his mob together and they passed around the cup. They said along about midnight, we'll go string that up. And evil had the rifles and evil had the rope. Will just had a shotgun, but he didn't have much hope. Then Boss McBinion showed up with his pistol in his hand. He said, I heard y'all gonna try to lynch my hardest working man. And I don't know who you worthless trash think you come to kill, but I'll gladly shoot the man who lays a hand on my man Will. And one by one they dropped their guns and went into the night. Will lived to see another day. He'd won a hopeless fight. And the word of God from World War I had saved him once again. Cause he did not pick his battles and he never chose his friends. Will died in a nursing home at the age of 91. And standing at that funeral home is the one who wrote this song. And I tell this old man's story just to pass along that even when you're by yourself, you never stand alone. You can't always pick your battles or always choose your friends. When you get up in the morning, don't know how the day will end. But there are angels all around us and chariots on the wind. And he who stands with us is more than those who ride with them. Connecticut County, Alabama, 1925. Will Cunningham rode into town to get his week's supplies.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much, Robert. Man, you are. I'm so glad to know you and to be your friend, man. You know, you're just the best. So, Robert Jones lives in Detroit, Michigan. Robert, if you got a website or Facebook or something, just and all the other artists now, don't be sure and do that. Put your websites out here. Maybe people will buy your CDs and all that stuff. So be sure and pop that in the chat for everybody. Let's hear it again for Robert Jones, man. That was something else. Oh, I'm not sure if you can tell by looking at me, but this is what I look like when I'm happy. Like, I'm really happy right now. I'm just like, especially spent a lot of my life alone and talking to a screen, and to be able to be around such gifted people and to hear stories that inspire me and all that, I'm just really happy. So I'd like to bring my friend Bill Lepp out now. Somebody wake Bill up. Paula, will you wake Bill up, please? Please, Paula. Can we spotlight Bill? There he is.
I don't know what's happening here.
There you
I
are.
can't get my video to come on.
Oh, that's disappointing. You got a new haircut and everything, and
Yeah, last month. You can hear me. I'm gathering.
yeah, we could treat it like a radio show if you want.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I don't have the red line across my camera. It just says stop video, but clearly, I mean, I can't see me either.
Hang on a second, Brandon. Any thoughts on this? Is Brandon still here? He might have gone already. Yeah, I'm not sure what to tell you there.
No, his video's unmuted, Don.
Right. So
we should be able to see him. I think it might be on his end.
You know what? What I did was
turn the light on.
Some of these eye devices, you can make it so the camera's pointed the wrong way, and that's apparently what I was doing.
I was gonna say, take your thumb off the camera.
Hey, Kevin, I just want to say to you that I'm glad you're on the same planet as me too, but I'm glad that the planet's as big as it is. I have not told a news story this entire year. That's just been the kind of year it's been. In fact, I haven't even been able to write a news story this whole year. So I finally wrote one yesterday, and so I'm just going with that, and we'll see how that turns out.
Hang on a second, Bill. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know you don't like people.
No, I want to hear it because it's new, so I want to know how awful it is.
All right. So boo at will, everybody. No. Nice shirt.
Thank you. I'm not quite tall enough. In 1977, of course, the movie Smokey and the Bandit came out. And in that movie, Burt Reynolds drove a 1976 V8 455 T-top Trans Am. And at one point, there was a fella in town named Alan Brown, and he was married to Mrs. Brown. I don't know Mrs. Brown's first name. And Mrs. Brown said to Alan Brown, they had 3 children at the time. One was 17, one was 16, and the third was 15. And Mrs. Brown said to Alan Brown, we ought to get a stick shift so that the children can learn how to drive a manual car. And Mr. Brown pretended like he didn't want to get a stick shift and had to talk into it. And then he said reluctantly, well, I guess I'll go see if I can find a stick shift, a good deal. And a couple hours later, he came flying, screeching back into the driveway in a 1976 V8 455 T-top Trans Am. And Mrs. Brown said, what on earth is this? And Mr. Brown said, well, you said that we needed to get a stick shift so the kids could learn how to drive a stick shift. So Mr. Brown was sort of a problem oversolver. But when Mr. Bart, my buddy Skeeter's dad, when Mr. Bart heard that story, he went out and bought a 1976 V8 455 T-top Trans Am and came slinging into the driveway. And Mrs. Bart came out and said, Frank, what are you doing? And Frank said, the kids need to learn how to drive a stick shift. And Mrs. Bart said, Frank, Skeeter's not going to be 16 for 6 more years. And Mr. Bart said, well, by that time, the clutch will be worked in just about right. So we were 10 when this all happened, and it was August, and it was hot. It was just, 127% humidity. We had sort of exhausted all of the summertime things that there are to do. And so Skeeter and I were kind of underfoot, and we were at that point, we were snipping at each other, and the adults were saying things to us like, why don't you boys go get into something, which was not something that they usually advised us to do. But Mr. Bart especially was kind of getting snappy with us, and Mr. Bart could get angry. Mr. Bart, Skeeter's dad, was one of those guys that could be going along just fine, and then the next second just be out of his mind with rage. His head turned purple, veins coming out everywhere. And so he told us one day while we were all kind of messing around in the garage, he said, why don't you boys go check the mail? which was a weird suggestion. But this was, of course, long before email. This was when mail came once a day, and it came in a box in front of your house, and you had to walk out there and you had to open it up. And it was very, very exciting if you got a letter addressed to you. Usually it happened around your birthday or around Christmas, and there was generally money in it. So getting mail was an exciting thing.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, back then, you know, it was still rare to get mail, but maybe like when you got a little bit older, you'd go to camp or something. Maybe you'd go to Camp Norway, and you would meet someone who you would fall in love with on the first day of camp. And you knew that they were your soulmate and that you were going to love this person for the rest of your life. And you would spend that week in love. And then camp would end and your relationship would be ripped asunder. And they would go off to some exotic foreign city like Toledo or Harrisburg. And then the only way to contact that person was to write them a letter. And you take a piece of paper and a pen and you would write something like, "My dearest, before turning in, I had to write you to tell you how much I love you and that I cannot slumber. And all day I thought of you. And earlier today, I received your missive about what you were doing. And I had to send this dispatch to you to tell you to keep my heart from tearing apart, how I love you. I'll always love you. I can't wait to see you again." It's so romantic. It's so much more romantic than, you know, what we do now, which is like, "Hey, honey, just texting to say, going to bed, love you, ding." And so then it bing, and you have this boring little text instead of like a scented envelope where someone has taken the time to take a pen, colored pens, and draw I and a heart, and then the letter U. Oh, it was such a beautiful thing. But at that point in our life, Skeeter and I didn't know anybody from Toledo or Harrisburg. So we went to check the mail. Now, of course, this was also the era when there were chain letters. And chain letters are, of course, the grandparents of what we have now with chain email. And they went two ways. They went positive or they went negative. And the positive one was you have to send this letter, copy it. They were usually written in blood. And it said, you have to send this letter to 10 other people, you know, written in blood. And if you do that, then all of your wildest fantasies and dreams will come true. Or they went negative. You have to send this letter to 10 other people. And if you don't, then all of your worst nightmares are going to come true. And so then it was hard. You couldn't just, you know, it's not like sending an email. If you wanted to write a letter, you'd have to go up to your mom and be like, "Hey, Mom, can I have 10 envelopes and 10 stamps?" And she would be like, "Did you get a silly chain letter? I told you don't have to answer those chain letters." And so you wouldn't answer it. But then the night before the deadline, you'd lay in bed worrying that, you know, all your nightmares were going to come true. And then you'd wake up in the morning and you weren't dead and you weren't dismembered. And through the course of the day, you'd start to relax just a little bit, that maybe things were going to be okay. So we went to the mailbox after Frank told us to go to the mailbox, and we opened it up, and there was a letter addressed to Skeeter, and he opened it, and it was kind of a chain letter, but it was a little bit different because instead of saying send this out to 10 other people, it had a task. It said, if you do this one thing, all of your wildest dreams will come true. And that one thing, Skeeter showed me, it said that you should build the world's greatest slip and slide. And Skeeter explained to me quickly, I didn't know what a slip and slide was, but that's where you take like a piece of plastic or like a shower curtain, if you're classy, and you put that on a slope in your yard. You run some water on that, put some soap on it, you know, let the hose go, and then you can slide down the hill. It's exciting stuff. So the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The next morning, I forgot people were responding because nobody was. The story must be going pretty bad. So the next morning, we got up and we were leaving to go build our slip and slide. And Frank, Mr. Bart, Skeeter's dad, we heard him say to Skeeter, "Skeeter, you're supposed to wash the car before you go anywhere." And we pretended that we didn't hear him as we went away. And then we heard Mrs. Bart, Skeeter's dad, or Skeeter's mom, say to Mr. Bart, "I don't think you should have written that letter. I think you maybe oversolved that problem." And Frank pretended that he didn't hear her. And so we went up behind the city pool, the $50 city pool, town I grew up in, is it's a big pool, and but it's half in ground and half out of ground because we live in West Virginia, so everything's like this. So the pool, the shallow end is underground, and then I guess it'd be at my elbow, and then as you come out to the deep end, there was like a 1.5-story cinder block building that housed the deep end of the pool. And behind that, there was a slope, probably 300 yards. It was one of Angus Fester's hay fields, and it was the best sledding hill in the whole county. So it was going to make a great slip and slide hill also. And not only that, but Angus was about to bale some hay, and so he had brought those giant rolls of plastic that they roll hay bales up in. So, you know, they look like giant marshmallows out there in the field. He had left those rolls of plastic out in his field because he was going to hook them up before he did the hay. And it didn't take much pushing and kicking to get those hundreds of yards of plastic to roll all the way down that hill. And we did 6 of them. So we had a 6-lane slip and slide. And then we had gotten from the school, you know, totally legally, several 5-gallon buckets of commercial grade dish soap and industrial liquid floor waxer. And we started to pour that down those rows of plastic. And then Skeeter turned the water on. And by this time, dozens of kids had come up, and you can build up quite a head of speed sliding down 300 yards on industrial floor wax. And I don't know how long we've been doing that, but we've been having a great time doing it. When the lifeguard leaned over the fence from the pool behind us, and she said, "Hey, what are you doing? Turn the drain valve from the pool off." And Skeeter looked at her and said, "You turn around. You're the lifeguard that way. You are the lifeguard at the pool. You got no business. You have no authority this way." And she said, "I'm the lifeguard where the water is. And right now, all the water is going down the hill. I'm calling Sheriff Hasbro." And so all the kids kind of ran away. And Skeeter and I went home. Now, that hill went right down to Skitter Creek. And Skitter Creek ran right past or right beside the Bart's yard. And so when we got back to Skeeter's house, that 1976 V8 455 T-top Trans Am was up in a tree with water and soap and wax just kind of dripping from it. And Mr. Bart was standing in the yard looking up at the car in the tree. And Mrs. Bart, Skeeter's mom, was leaned up against a fence or a back porch rail, sipping a glass of iced tea and kind of smiling. And we walked in the yard, and Mr. Bart turned around and looked at us. Because obviously, I don't know if I've made this clear, but all that water flash flooded the yard, put the car in the tree, just in case you missed that. So he turned around and he looked at us, and his face went through a series of emotions, from anger to frustration to rage. I mean, he knew that this was his fault. He wanted to yell at us, but he knew that this was his fault. And not only did he know it was his fault, but he knew that his wife was right and he shouldn't have done it. And those are hard things to face in your life. So he wanted to be mad at us, but he knew it was his fault. And he looked at us, and his face went through all of those different emotions. And finally, he half smiled and he said, "Thanks for washing the car." Thank you. It'll be better next time you hear it.
Oh, well, you know, Bill, you should pop in on a Thursday night when I'm doing it and just try these things out. You're always welcome. Let's hear it again for Bill, that man. All right, so I'm going to play a song, something, and then you're all welcome to. I think what we'll do after that is just take the tellers that are here that want to stay and just let everybody catch up and talk a little bit with each other. And but I want to thank you all for doing this, for supporting the Don White Ramen Noodle Fund and the Cave Run Festival. Let me play. This is really just half a song. I'm just working on it, and gives a chance to practice it, I guess. The idea for this is that I've always kind of marveled where, like, there'll be families around here where the parents are not well and they're not taking good care of the kids for good reasons. They have mental health issues or the drugs and alcohol, whatever. And the kids turn out the way you'd expect, except sometimes they don't. Maybe one kid will be able to somehow figure out how to be a grown-up and be all of the things that they weren't taught to be. And I just think it's an underappreciated miracle when people figure out how to be what they were taught not to be. So let me just play this, and then we'll just have like an open discussion here. were taught by your world that being kind and empathetic were the kind of things that made a person weak. They said push and grab and fight every minute of your life. And trample those between you and what you believe you need. But from the moment you were born, in your heart there was a song you could hear through all the years of fear and insecurity, singing cruelty's always weak, but love and empathy are strong enough to break the chains of selfishness and greed. Gentle is the strongest thing to be. It's not the color of your eyes, it's not your hypnotizing smile, it's not any of the many things that everyone can see. It's the way you always knew what they told you wasn't true. It's how you made yourself the person that they taught you not to be. That's what makes you beautiful to me. You know it is not your fault that heroin and alcohol made them both too ill to give their children what they really need. But it sure would have been nice to be encouraged once or twice, to feel safe at night, or have a life with just a little normalcy. But from the moment you were born, in your heart there was a song you could hear through all the years of fear and insecurity, saying when you feel hatred in your heart, you just remember who you are, and that underneath the weight of hate, your heart cannot be free. Forgiving is the stronger thing to be. It's not the color of your eyes, it's not your hypnotizing smile, it's not any of the many things that everyone can see. It's the way you always knew what they told you wasn't true. It's how you made yourself the person that they taught you not to be. That's what makes you beautiful. That's what makes you beautiful. That's what makes you beautiful to me. All right, so for any of you guys that want to hang around, so let's how many of our storytellers are still here? Let's unmute them. Let's mute up everybody else and unmute them. What about you, Ed Stivender? Do you want to do something for us? Just like a short piece. Ed, would you be interested in that? You have to unmute yourself, or it will just be a mime piece. There you go. Still can't hear you, buddy. All right, tell you what, if you can get your stuff so you work, you're welcome to tell us the story, Ed. Otherwise, you could use sign language, perhaps. There you go. Nope.
How about now?
There you go. It's
All
Tyler.
All right.
Coming into
All
the
right.
new century. I just want to say something about this, man. When we went to, when my wife and I first went to the Jonesboro, he walked us around and introduced us to everybody and took really good care of us and was very, very generous of spirit with us. And he's just a nice man. So I'm glad you're here. And so if you've got something short, Bill, Ed, I'd love to hear it.
Okay. I'm working on a new song myself, as a matter of fact, and I took the idea of the libraries this year, which was Imagine Your Story. So here's my Imagine Your Story song. Imagine your story is a jack tale, where you meet up with a giant and defeat him with your wit and pluck. Imagine your story is a fairy tale, where you overcome adversities with magic and a little bit of luck. Imagination is a blessing. Yeah, imagination keeps you guessing, imagining alternatives until you find the one that gives the answer you were seeking all along. Imagination is a blessing, one of the blessings of Providence that the Constitution promises, like liberty and life and the First Amendment right to sing your song. Imagine your story's a little scary, with ghosts and goblins and witches and dragons galore, but with help from above and maybe a friendly fairy, you blow it all away and you're not afraid anymore. Imagination is the greatest gift you've got. It helps you decide, helps you figure out what is true and good and what is not. Imagination shows you how to live happy ever after, because once upon a time is now. Hacha!
Hacha! Thank you, Ed.
Thanks for the chance, Don.
You're a good man. Anytime you're always welcome wherever I am, Ed.
Thank you.
All right.
What a lineup you had tonight. This was a real amazing.
I won't forget it for a while. So let's so we're gonna stop spotlighting people and just let the tellers talk to each other. So maybe it won't work. Maybe tellers don't like to talk. That's a possibility, isn't it?
I do. I want to say that I thought I had changed my name to cleverly disguise myself. I thought I was coming in as Kev Harley, but apparently
no.
Also, Kev, I wasn't kidding about the planet being big, and I'm glad for
it. Don't worry, I've got my mental powers.
Hey, Kevin, tell the thing about the girl with her secret power. I love that.
In the classroom?
Yeah, this is such a great story.
I was telling these kids that what makes you different, because I was telling them about my arm. I think I'm a writer because of my arm. And I said, so what makes you different gives you power. So we went around and made superhero characters out of what made them different. And we got this one little girl, and I go, what makes you different? She goes, I'm really shy. I said, I know, you haven't said anything all week. I said, but why does that give you power? She goes, because sometimes people forget I'm in the room and I'm invisible and I know everything. And she did.
That's great. That's great. That's fun. I like your story, Bill. It's a good story.
Thank you. I feel that way too, but it's got a long way to go.
Oh man, I know. It's like you got to do it 30 times, and plus, 30 times, and then it actually helps to have people in front of you.
It does.
There's that too.
I really did forget that I was unmuted until I heard one noise 8 minutes in, and I was like, oh man, no.
Oh my God, flop sweat! I'm dying here, and I didn't know it.
Even the dog left the room.
That's because you're rapid fire. There's a delay here. You can't. You have to put a space after something funny, or it just doesn't work in this format. I think it's really nicely put together. The story, Bill. I think nice piece of work there.
Yeah, Bill, it's okay. It's okay.
Hey, you know what though? Here's the thing about it. It's not about sledding. I was so proud of myself to not write a sledding story. I'm like, how many sledding stories are there? Wait a minute, slip and slide on a hill. It's not sledding.
You can't get them anymore. Or jarts and slip and slide.
Oh my God, I know. We should do something about charts. It's like that is ridiculous.
But when Kev says jarts and slip and slide, I expect he means at the same time.
Whammo.
There was a game.
What is a jart?
Jarts are these big, they're lawn darts. They were like this big, and they had this long, where they had wings on the back like a rocket, and it was just this long pointed thing like this, and you were supposed to like throw them into a ring like 50 yards away. But, you know, it's just the number of kids who were impaled on them must have been in the thousands. Whammo. Whammo is responsible for all of that. The slip and slide and that, and the thing you put on the end of the hose. And you know.
Remember the Dan Aykroyd, the toy company on Saturday Night Live? You know, like, there's a bag of glass. What? That's not dangerous.
For Halloween.
Y'all played with some weird things. That's all I can say.
We played with like a stick with a nail in it, man.
That's the good idea too, Rob.
That was
dodgeball with a fully regulation sized basketball, fully inflated. Bam! You know?
Yeah, that's right.
Take the kid out. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
See, I was always the kid that got took out, so I was not good at dodging the ball.
I was pretty good at dodgeball.
Dodgeball at our school is part of the presidential fitness plan, so we all had to play it.
Oh, no.
The president
my favorite game was Red Rover. Red Rover, Red Rover. Then someone right over. I love to be the one they try to come through, because if they happen to get through, you hit them on the way down.
I lost my front teeth to Red Rover. We were playing in the gym. I just got my new teeth, 3rd grade, and I broke through the line. I hit the wall.
Oh, man.
Broke the 2 front teeth, and I remember I just grown, and the gym teacher, who was also the librarian, she was taking me down to the office. I said, "Well, they'll grow back, won't they?" And she started. we're halfway there. She just started to cry.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know,
Kevin, did you say that the president made you play dodgeball? Did I hear that right?
That's what he said.
Those were the days.
Is this a primarily adult audience, Donnie? Can I tell something that borders on off color?
Well, in Ireland, it's 4 a.m. Have at it.
All right. Well, is that the moon or the sun?
Yeah.
This is the story I can't tell on stage, or at least I haven't found a way yet. This is true. When my buddy Skeeter was in about the 8th grade, he went to health class. And they had a brand new health teacher. So he's 13, 14. All his buddies are 13, 14. It's a co-ed class. And their poor little teacher's 22-year-old fresh graduate, you know, just minted out of college herself. And she has to explain the birds and the bees to this group of middle school students. And so she explains the process of creating a baby. And one of the girls, and she says, "Does anybody have any questions?" Which I never would have, I would have kept them on mute. Yeah. And so one of the young ladies in the class raised her hand and said, "Well, what if the boy has to urinate?" And the teacher said, "Well, you can't urinate when you have an erection." And then there was just silence in the class, and about 8 of the boys' hands just started to go up like, yeah, you can.
Hey, you know what? Let's do all the stories that we can't tell at the festival.
There you go.
It's 10 o'clock. Have at it. Especially those of you that never want to be invited back again. Let's go.
Yeah, especially.
The scorched. Go ahead.
No, I see a cabaret in your future, Bill.
That's right.
That's it, though. That I only have that 15 seconds, and then I'm just gonna have to fill the other, hour and a half.
I'll help you.
Oh, thanks.
What are you gonna say, Bill Harley? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I always laughed. I remember talking with Kevin about this. It's like I'm gonna have tour jackets. It'll be the Scorched Earth tour. You'll never play in this town again. I'll just travel the country, telling all the stories I always wanted to tell that'll never get me invited back, and then I'll be done. But as it happened,
Yeah, did it ever cross your
I didn't
mind?
even get to do it.
Thanks, Bill. This is perfect Harley luck.
Yeah.
Did it ever cross your mind, Bill, that somebody put this whole thing together just to keep you off stage? All of us are suffering.
Yeah. I'm tired of traveling. Oh God, I didn't mean it.
Right.
Somebody figured it out to keep that garage full of jackets so you couldn't sell them.
Yeah. Beautiful, dude. Satin jackets. They're great. Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. But it's good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Sheila, thank you so much for being part of this stuff. We should talk. I mean, I know you're doing quite a bit of stuff, so let's trade ideas sometime. Reach out to me.
I will do that. And I want to say a thank you to Bill Harley again for your song Elijah. I know it's too much,
good work.
the choir saying that is, if you have not heard him sing Elijah, it is just absolutely beautiful. And I told him this, but I'll say it out loud again here. I'll say it out loud here, is that as a Black mother of a Black son who is 34 years old, who has been stopped more times than I can count, and who has had a gun held on him by law enforcement because for mistaken identity, that song meant a lot to me. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. It's actually even better because I'm not singing it. That's one reason. It's
Yes,
really
that is one of the true parts of that. There's no doubt about it.
Right. That was. I'm really smart because I know I'm smart because I had somebody else do it.
But that was really good. That's powerful words, and I am so appreciative of that, and I am really happy because of that. So. But I am I have to still go to sleep and get my beauty sleep. You men probably don't need as much, or maybe more, but I'm going to go ahead and go to sleep now. And I will see some of you all hopefully later. Thank you, Don, for a great night.
Great to see you, Sheila.
All right, Sheila. Keep up the good work.
Bye, Sheila. Love you.
Tell Paula hello, and
She's
and
right
Debbie.
here. She just won't stick her face on the camera.
Oh, Paula, stop. Just say hello. Come on.
Hi, Sheila.
Just come over here so I can see your face. Just come on for just a minute. Just give me the satisfaction that I can see you. And
Paula's not coming to peer pressure. She's not doing it. Oh, there she
Yay!
Hey, Paula.
How's everybody? Good to see everybody.
How's the baby girl? How's she doing? How's Ellie?
Man, she's the only one in the house working right now.
I'm working right now, baby.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's doing
Wait.
You said that like a Black man. I'm working now, baby.
Yeah. So no, she's doing great. She doesn't start school until September 8th. Noah he's home this semester. All of his classes are online. So he's doing his virtual school. I thought I'd graduated from homeschool, but apparently not. Surprise. So yeah, he's living home this semester because it doesn't make sense for him to live on campus if none of his classes are live. So
I have a question for you. Did your mother get flooded out with all that water that came up through there? I know she had trouble with flooding before.
Luckily the water had gone down enough that when all that came through, the water came back up, but not in her yard. So she's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of wind, a lot of limbs down, but no flooding.
Okay. Good. Tell her I was asking for her.
I will.
Yeah.
So, all right. Bye, everybody. I gotta go fold clothes.
Bye, Paula. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Bye, guys.
Bye, Sheila.
Philip, I have a question about the spelling of your name. You see what it spells on your picture there?
Yeah, I didn't do that. I think that whoever's in charge disguised me that way.
Yeah,
I came on as Bill Lepp. I really did think I had changed my name to Kev Harley. But I came on full out as Bill Lepp, and then they changed it. I also want to say that the whole night I thought the camera lens was at the other end of the iPad, which is why I've been looking the wrong way all night.
Just look kind of
discovered it's here.
You just kind of look distracted the whole time.
I was.
Zoom stuff really sucks. Like, you can't even see anything.
I think it was down
I
here.
thought you were doing the crossword.
Bill.
Yeah, I know that now, man.
There it is, right there.
See it, come on. They said they don't want you here anymore.
Okay. I didn't hear that.
You were in this room.
Stay.
There's a domestic dispute in square number 14.
Yeah.
Just seriously, it's just my eyes on here right now, isn't it?
Pretty much, man. You got pretty eyes.
Very nice eyes.
No,
Ed wouldn't lie.
No, he wouldn't.
You know,
Paul, are you gonna say anything?
I'm just enjoying myself. This is nice. Just get to hang out.
liked your story a lot, Paul. It was
Thank
really
you,
good. Nicely done.
Yeah, nice job, Paul.
Appreciate it.
You know, we should do this once in a while. You know, I'm gonna reach out to some other storytelling things, and then I'll do all the work just so I get to hang out with my people at the end. You know, it just feels good. Like, you know, me and Harley and Bill Lepp, we did some shows together, and we always felt like if they could have filmed what we were doing in the car, it would have been better than with a show. You know, I mean, it just the sort of spontaneousness of it.
It actually wasn't true, but we thought it was true.
Right. Doesn't matter, does it?
You were so funny, yeah.
Yeah. We think it's funny in the car. We try it on the stage, and it hits the stage floor like a drink, like a tray of empty drinks. Crash! Nobody laughs. Yeah, it was great in the car though, between Chicago and Detroit. Hilarious. Yeah.
No, there was that one night in Michigan where we collectively decided it was the audience that was horrible.
Yeah, but that was just the one time though. Every other time it was entirely our fault. What we should do is put somebody in the car. Well, I don't know if this is called a crime or not, but we should put someone in the car with us and then make them pay to get out.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a retirement plan.
Yeah.
If you have to ask if it's a crime, just don't do it right away.
That is the Scorched Earth tour right there.
Uh-huh.
I'm just happy to know that my legal counsel is you guys.
Good.
It's like, you guys, is this okay? Yeah, Bill, it's good. It's good.
Real good.
I told him it was okay. Harley, I told him it was okay. Glenn, let's watch and see what happens.
That'd be great. I think I'm going to turn into a pumpkin, you guys. So.
All right, good night, everyone. We may as well kill this thing. Listen, this meant a lot to me. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Great to see you all, and thanks for participating in it. And good luck to everybody. Stay
Nice
healthy.
shirt, Bill. Nice
Yeah,
shirt.
Robert, Ed, everybody. It's great to see all of you.
Bye, everybody. Great seeing you.
Next
See
year,
y'all.
Jerusalem.
Bye. Love you, Don.
Sometime.
Here I am.
See you guys. Thank you.
On.
Thank you. No, you hang up. No, you
hang up.
No, you hang up.
You first.
Nice work tonight, Don, both as producer and performer.
Thank you, and appreciate you.
Man, I was listening. That unmuted. There was weeping.
Yeah.
There was weeping at the end of your first act. There was serious weeping.
During my story?
No,
we talked about during mine.
No, I was weeping, but it was muted.
I'm accustomed to people weeping just at my guitar style and my vocal. What do you call it? My approximate pitch.
Yeah.
That'll generally get a few tears out of the audience. But yeah, I really like having a few people unmuted. It just it just makes me better, you know.
I
But
agree.
but Bill Lepp, the thing about it is, if you're gonna do it, if you wind up doing it, you have to change your timing. Like
I know. Well, I was telling Paula just the other day, I finally figured out is Zoom is like trying to hit a fastball, right?
Yeah.
Online virtually. Because
Yeah.
you can't see the pitcher. And then
Right.
when you finally see the ball, it's on a 3 second delay. So I just don't know where to swing, you know, or when to swing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the arguments that I've had for doing it all the time. Like people argue against saturating your audience or whatever, like burning out your audience. But one of the plus sides is when you do it every week, you get better at it. The same way you get better by doing it in a crowd. It's a different animal. It's playing to the camera. It's the difference in, like, when there's a laugh in your story, in the audience you would give it 1, 2, right? But now it's almost 4. It's like 1, 2, 3, and that's the time it takes for them to hear it, and then to you to hear the laugh, and for it to be ended. So it takes a little
Right.
practice, but it can work, and it's fun. It's fun for the audience too. They get to feel like it's not cold, It's not.
right. But and again, I mean, this is the first time I've said these words in this order out loud ever. So I knew where one laugh was, maybe 2. I just didn't know where they were. So
Yeah. I think the punchline was good. Punchline was perfect.
thank you. Thank you.
Ed Stuyvesant, he wouldn't blow smoke at you either.
No, he wouldn't. He's one of the few people who, when they say, "Can I give you a suggestion?" I say, "Yes," and I mean it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, good.
So, all right.
All right, kids, be good. Robert, thank you. Much love to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Much
nice
love,
work
man.
tonight,
Thank
Robert.
you. And
Nice work, everybody.
some of my favorite people, man. It's like you guys are wonderful. So be strong, be safe. Love you
Same
all.
to you, buddy.
All
Same
right.
to you.
Bye now.
All right, see you.
All right. Brian, you want to hang around for a second and just talk tech for a minute? Is he still here? Yeah, Brian Dozer. Rachel, I would have pulled you in. You could have told a little story or something, but too busy, right? Unmute yourself. Can you do it? Here. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, yes, just had to take care of the family.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming, and thanks for all you're doing out there in the world. Appreciate you.
Well, appreciate all that you're doing too, and just exciting to see everybody. So thanks for letting me just pretty much be a fly on the wall.
Well, I know that you got some stuff going where you live. If you want any help with this or anything, just let me know. We'll make it so. I mean, you probably know how to put this together. It's not that much